because our impact is so, so powerful. So let me talk a little bit about kind of my journey, also really where I find myself today in my practice. Because again, I really want to give you that thought process of how can you take your volunteering and the skills you have that you're creating through Savvy Ladies and bring that back to your own practice. I'm sharing this information not to brag, although I am phenomenally proud of it, but because I want to make a point with this of why really focusing into your personal story, really focusing into your brand, and getting your big girl pants on, your big boy pants on to say who you work with. Who you work with is so important. So through Francis Financial, we work with women who are at their most vulnerable. They are women who are heartbroken because they've gone through a divorce or are going through a divorce, or their spouse has passed away. And they typically are pretty high net worth. Our minimum is $2 million. So it's actually very different than the population that we serve at Savvy Ladies. And it's actually, there's a reason for that. But with leaning in to that niche and not being afraid to say, this is who we work with, not working with everyone, this is who we work with, we've had phenomenal success. So last year, we grew by $170 million under management. We now are at about $700 million. And of those 107 million, a good amount was from the market. We had a really nice market year last year, and let's just embrace those memories. The positive was about 120 million of that was from organic growth, from money from current clients, from new clients. We brought on 33 clients during that time. Now, again, the reason why I'm sharing this is because the more specific that we have gotten in who we work with and who we don't work with, the more our business has been able to thrive. And I know that for a lot of individuals, you're grappling with the same thing. In fact, for a lot of us, there are much more difficult competitors to deal with. We have a lot of VC, venture capital money coming in, a lot of mega companies as well, and it's becoming harder and harder to stand out. It's becoming harder and harder to share your message of you and what you do and how you're different among the mass of voices out there. And so why do we talk about these numbers? Well, quite frankly, it's not about the numbers. It's not necessarily about the metrics, but it's about how you can do your best work. You can make the most difference with whomever your population is. Understanding your personal story is a big piece of this. And you all know my personal story, but I want you to know that you don't have to have a personal story like mine. I have people say that to me. Well, your personal story is so much better than my personal story. FY, we all have personal stories. And Natalie in my firm grew up not knowing where her next meal was coming from, or what clothes she would have or shoes that she could wear because she grew up in such poverty in California. Or Sunana, who watched her grandmother raise her 5 daughters on her own, being shunned by their family in India because her husband passed away, and culturally sometimes the wife is blamed. So having to flee to the UK. Or Alexandra, who when she was in college, her father very suddenly passed away and found herself having to take care of her mother, pay for the housing for her mother, all of the finances, which she still takes on today. We all have different stories. And what we're going to be talking about is understanding what your personal story is and learning how to share that, learning how to be authentic, learning how to not be perfect. Our clients don't want that. Our clients want to hear about why you do this work. They want to know that you care about them. They want to know that you are doing this from a place of passion, from a place where you truly care about them, that you care about them as family. So talking about your personal brand and the reason why it's so important and being so clear about who you work with is so powerful because what it does is it amplifies your voice, right? It amplifies your voice and it allows you also to have deep, meaningful connections with your clients. And that's what really allows you to do your best work. Because ultimately, no one in this field got into this field because we necessarily maybe love marketing or we love selling. No, why did we do this? We did this because we want to help. But an advisor gave me such great advice the first year I started my practice at 27. And he said to me, I know you want to help women, but you're not going to help anyone unless you can create a viable, successful, thriving business. So that's why this is so important. And that's why we should not feel bad about really branding and this conversation. It does not detract in any way from why we are doing this in the very bottom of our heart. You cannot help anyone unless you are able to really grow your business. So there are three different things and myths I wanted to debunk as we kind of kick off about what we call niching or branding or really staking that flag in the ground of saying who you work with. The first one is that niches limit growth. Has anyone heard that? That, you know what, if you say that you're only working with fishermen who are bass fishermen that are that you're gonna actually find yourself, you've narrowed it so much, you're not gonna be successful. Well, guess what? There is a financial advisor that specializes in tournament bass fishermen and is phenomenally successful, right? So if you can do that, you can do pretty much anything. But that is actually, again, having a niche actually grows your practice even more so. Charles Schwab, thank you, Charles Schwab, did a fantastic survey that just came out in 2024 benchmarking survey. And they found is that firms that actively niche and brand for a certain segment of the population have a 5.1% compounded annual growth that is higher than the industry. That is pretty darn phenomenal. Now, not only that, but the advisors and the owners that work in that field also are much more productive. Their productivity is 37% higher than other advisors that do not have that focus. Why? Right? Why? Because you are knowing in and out the problems and the challenges that your clients are serving and need to be addressed. You're not having to start from scratch. And because of that, you're actually able to give a huge amount of great, better services. Number two, this is really important. I need to find my niche from the start. I have talked to so many advisors who are just getting started out and say, I don't know what my niche is. That feeling of like having to know everything. Have you ever felt that way? That you're like, I should know this? I know that I felt that way as well. And even though I had such a powerful story, I didn't know what our niche was going to be because I have to tell you, it took me some growth to be able to own that, to be able to own the dysfunction of my family, to be able to share that. And so understanding that you don't have to have all the answers now. And we're going to be talking about how do you figure out what that might be. And that is something, again, that we're going to be talking about today to help you move along that way. And number 3, generalists attract more clients. That is just not true. There are many people, and you can go to our website, francisfinancial.com. You'll see that it is very clear who we work with. And I know there are many people who go on there that say that's not me. But is that a bad thing? No. Because guess what? We may not be the right ones to serve them anyway. But what I do want is I want someone to go on there that says, this group of people get me. They speak my language. They know what I'm feeling. They know what I'm worried about. So that final myth is just absolutely, absolutely not true. We find firms, and Charles Schwab has shown this too in their recent study, firms that are not generalists, that are very much into serving a population, have higher client satisfaction rates, higher retention, and a much stronger referral base. They get referrals at twice the amount of others. So there's a lot that we just went through. I'm so excited to kick us off today to really talk about, number 1, the bottom line. And the bottom line is your story, is your brand, your purpose. Your purpose is actually will be your growth strategy. This all impacts your legacy. It impacts your firm. It impacts your career. And that's what I'm so excited about today of really leaning into. And a final word of thanks and gratitude to all of you. Your story matters, and you do this every day. While I love this profession, we all know it's not easy, especially now. We are seeing both clients with huge amounts of anxiety and also women coming to the helpline. And you are leaning in. You are leaning in and helping people at their most vulnerable. And you are the people that are putting the glue back. You are the people who are changing people's lives. And so I hope that you really hear that. I hope that you embrace that, because I know it's not easy. But with every life you are changing through Savvy Ladies, trust me, you are making a difference for so many others that you may not even realize that you're impacting also through your firm. So thank you so much. I'm going to kick it on off for our next session. Judy, do you want to jump in and we'll get started with our panel?
Well, thank you, Stacy. And I'm hoping everyone could hear. We are now moving into our panel discussion, and I am thrilled to introduce Liz from Goldman Sachs and Charles Schwab. Oh my goodness.
That was a joke.
That was
funny.
a joke.
Yeah, that was totally.
We're cutting that from we're editing that out. Oh my God. Very apologetic. So
It's a joke.
So please come up, Liz, and take it away, because I surely need my coffee this morning. So my apologies.
Oh, please, that you have to be vulnerable. All right. Well, that was a powerful story. That was, I wish you had so much in there that I feel like this was not ending at 11, that this was all day long, but I'm hoping that we can have more deeper conversations like that, because what we're going to talk about in this panel is your story, the things that have brought you to where you are. And it's not about being salesy. It's not about trying to get that next prospect converted to a client. It's about helping, right? And so when you're helping, you come across as genuine, authentic. So our panelists today are going to help with that. I did want to add a statistic that also came from our recent benchmarking study, is that advisors who had a documented ideal client persona, to your point, a documented client value proposition, and a documented marketing plan had 67% more clients, which represented 67% more client assets. That has been in the 4th year now, that's a proof point that it works. Because you're not taking anyone with a heartbeat or a pulse. You're being very intentional about who it is that you're going after. Because you're right, that is definitely a myth. So anyway, I want to thank you all for letting Charles Schwab be a part of this, / Goldman Sachs. And yeah, are we gonna,
Yeah.
let's go.
So let's call up our panelists for today. Eric Blake is joining us up front. Chelsea, you're joining us up front. And Stacy, please join us up front. Do you guys want a water or anything? Grab a seat. Can I get you waters?
Yeah, actually, let me grab my water.
Thank you.
Over.
Why don't we pull that out?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We're a little divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So branding is something that we talk a lot about at Charles Schwab. We have worksheets, we have consulting engagements, and I recently heard a really great definition of branding, and that is a person's gut reaction to your company, to your service, to your offering, right? A customer's reaction. So it doesn't matter to a large degree what you all think your brand is, or what you think about your offering, or what you think about your firm, but it's what people out there think. So we're going to focus a lot about their story and how it has really driven their superpowers and the messaging that's out there. So as you're listening, taking notes, it's like when you're out there, when you're thinking about who you're talking to, who you're serving, what do people out there think about you and how you show up? Because that's essentially, what's going to help transform a prospect into a client. So with that said, let's kick it off with, what 3 words or phrases would you use to describe your brand? Why don't we start with?
Start with me, huh? So,
Yeah.
passion, patience, and education. What Stacy was talking about, when you get in the world of being a financial advisor, it's, I kind of think back the way, and it's been almost 25 years now. I can't believe that that's been the case. But like you said, when you first start, you kind of start, we use the, if they can fog a mirror, then you take them as a client. But it's really when I focused and turned my focus 100% towards working with women that I really felt like the fulfillment was really there. But those are the 3 things that I always had to be conscious of, that when you're going to work with women, those have to be there. Otherwise, they see right through you.
PPE.
There you go.
And you said I can use phrases, right?
Words or phrases.
All right, fantastic. So I would say the first one I always like to think about is empowering women to build wealth with equity and ownership. Like, that's everything that I really embody and instill. I make sure that I am leading for every client interaction with being approachable, relatable. And then I would say being a travel obsessed human being is another one. I mentioned that one specifically because I think when I think about my brand, I am very clear that I love to travel in everything that I do. And it's actually opened up some clients even finding us in our firm by me being that open about it as well.
I went to a place where I just did this webcast with my colleague Sheila Foley last Thursday. It's recorded if anybody wants to see it, but it was about how to grow through business referral centers of influence. Do you have travel agents as a center of influence? I'm curious.
No, I'm gonna be honest. I just post a lot on Instagram about the trips I go on. So, like, transparently, I go to, so my family is from Trinidad and Tobago. So I go to Carnival pretty frequently. Yes, there we go. Curry chicken or chicken curry? Curry chicken or chicken curry? Never mind. We'll take it on the side. All right. But I think there was sometimes like a hesitation of like, do I want to bring that side of myself, as I'm presenting myself as a financial planner or a financial advisor. But funny enough, actually a client saw the post and she was like, I actually go too, and I want an advisor who's not going to make me feel bad about going every year, because it is also an expensive thing to do, and understand that culturally it's really important to me. So like that transparency around like, hey, this is important to me, opened up and provide an opportunity for more people who felt that same passion to find me in our firm.
And travelers, investors who want to resonate with somebody that they can talk to. I mean, that's like part of the brand. Let's talk COIs later.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, how about you?
Yeah, so sharing and being so authentic it hurts with who you are and your story, and sharing that with everyone. Being obsessive about caring for others and caring for our clients and making sure they know that. And the other one is actually more inward facing teamwork. There's about 20 of us at the firm now, and each one of them is like they are my family. And we care for each other and support each other through. Sometimes we know life is not always easy, and really have created just a beautiful family. And that has been a game changer for us too. And obviously, my employees feel that, but in response, our clients feel that too. It really is lovely.
What I loved and did not hear about in any of that is what I always say to avoid, which is the sea of sameness. I didn't hear holistic, comprehensive, fiduciary in some cases, right? I mean, all important, all true, but it's not what you're gonna lead with. So I love that it was really here. Like I felt that everything you all said was coming from the heart. And I heard your story, all of yours in my, calls with each of you, and that impacted me. And now I'm gonna share, not right now, but my story more often, because it's powerful. How do you define a personal brand story?
It's good. And Stacy covered a lot of this when in her presentation, but I think it always starts, what is your personal story? So almost every time I get a chance to speak, especially when it's in front of women, one of the very first things I will say is, I would not be the man today that I am without the women in my life. So when I'm sitting here, that's what comes out. And I have to be careful about not tearing up, because it's, you think about where I came from. My mom, she was a single mom. So applause to any single moms out there. But I always think about, I never missed having I never knew my biological father. They divorced before I was a year and a half, but I never missed that, because I also had an amazing set of grandparents. The man I called daddy was my grandfather, and he passed away when my grandmother was 62. So that's a lot of where my inspiration comes from, and that's where my story starts. That's my why. And that's where, again, when I finally found my passion for this business in probably the last handful of years, was when I said, that's where I'm going with this. This is who I want to help. So we work with women over 55 who are making that transition into retirement on their own, because they don't have that son, they don't have that other person there to talk to and to share ideas and share dreams. That's where I feel like I can step in, I can fill that role. And that's where I develop, that's what I want my brand to be.
How often do you share that story in a month?
So, at least a handful. I had a client, so we do a big International Women's Day event every year. We had 90 women. Actually, it was March 7th, since March 8th was on a Saturday, so we did it on the Friday before. We had 90 women. And every time I start kind of doing my little piece of that, when we have a guest speaker, it's an amazing event. But I always give credit to one of our clients, because the second year we did it, I said, well, how many times can I share this story? What I always think about, what I get nervous about, what I'm going to say at the beginning to kick off the event. And I said, well, how many times can I share my story? She said, every time. Share it every time. Never miss an opportunity. So every single event since then, so we've done 4. Every time I tell my story, I give her a shout out. She's been to every one of them. I give her a shout out to say, it's because of you that I feel confident enough to share this story every single time I get the opportunity.
That's so important because you never know if you're sitting on a plane and that person next to you is a CEO or a business owner or corporate exec, and they might be feeling that same way, like, I need financial help. And the minute one says advisor or whatever, it's like goes right over their head. And but to hear that, might be like, oh wait, tell me more and lean in. Chelsea, how do you define a personal brand story?
Yeah, I think you said it exceptionally well, and I would tag team from both of you, like it's your why. And Stacy, I thought you brought up a great point where you said we all want to help, right? Like that's pretty much like the simple way to say it. But then let's push a little bit further, right? So like, why do we want to help? And I think for me, it's been my mom, right? Like, so she was a single mom also. Growing up, she's a fashion designer, so I always say she's like the other side of the brain where I do all the finance things. But she never had a financial planner or a financial advisor. And she just tried to do the best she could, but she didn't know. And I know for a fact that if she would have had somebody that would talk to her, like probably would have been in a different situation. The first time she tried to invest was in 2007. I think we all know what happened. Yes. So then she got scared because she saw all the money go down and then she pulled out and she swore she would never invest again. But she didn't have anyone to talk to. And I don't think because of her assets or because of the income that she had, no one really was open to even communicating with her. So that's when I started to think about like, so who is really here for people who are high earners, but just don't have the assets yet, who are willing to pay for financial advice. They just need to know where to go, right? So that's really what inspired me to even like create Zenith and really focus on first generation wealth accumulators and pre-retirees to say, hey, we'll help you as you're a high earner, get you set up, help you understand and lead with education and empathy first. And I truly fundamentally believe that we're building like the next generation of millionaires. And ideally, like we're going to change what the gender makeup and the complexion of wealth looks like in this country with a lot of our work. So that's really like the why. And I guess when you push a little bit further, how we get to that. But it also makes me proud to know that like the first investment accounts since that my mom opened were at Zenith. So like now it's like a full circle moment of, yes, you didn't get to have it when I was growing up, but like you have it now. And she works with one of our great Zenith advisors.
That phrase, building the next generation millionaires, is awesome. Do you use that phrase?
No, but Sarah, we gotta add that.
That resonated with me. People are gonna think I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
Stacey, you've shared your story and so I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, but I'm curious because I know it took a while to tell that story and I resonate with that. What made you go to that place of saying, you know what, I'm putting it out there?
Well, first off, I asked my father. He's no longer alive, but that was a really important thing for me to do, was to get his permission. This was his father, this was his mother. He too was severely abused. It's not just, right, it's often the children. And he was so supportive of me. He wanted me to share that story. Like, talk about like an amazing man, right? Who wanted to do that. But at the same time, it took me a while. It's embarrassing to know, to share that your family is so blanked up. I know we're being recorded, but you can add that word, and that's where you come from, right? That's where you come from. And it did take me a lot of really self-reflection to be able to share that story. I also have created a worksheet and some exercises for our team to go through to help them with their personal story so that they didn't have to struggle quite in the same way. And just the things to let you know what's on there that we talk about as a team is, why did you join this field, right? We all have a reason we joined this field. I can guarantee no one as a little girl or little boy said, I want to become a financial advisor. There was something that brought us here. Number two, have you ever faced any personal difficulties in your life? Any financial difficulties in your life? How did that show up? Anyone that you love, did you see them struggle with any personal or financial difficulties? Pretty much most people can do check, check, check. And so again, giving yourself that space to really think about that helps you start to move towards that, being able to be able to really identify that personal story and then be able to share it as well. And as far as sharing my personal story, I'm a little obsessive compulsive about tracking activity of like what my inputs are. I call them inputs. So speaking engagements, articles, things like that. But one of the things on there is I put my personal story. How many times a week have I told my personal story? Why? Because I tend to struggle with that. And I also find I have to keep very good health for myself because if I share my story enough, I actually get sick. And so I was at 3 conferences back to back, probably shared my personal story talking to people, I don't even know how many times, hundreds of times, and then I ended up with bronchitis and pneumonia. And so I actually am tracking that, number one, because I'm holding myself accountable to be brave and to be courageous, but I'm also tracking it to make sure that I'm taking care of myself because sharing your personal story, it can be hard as well. Still, I mean, it's been this long, it's still hard.
I could, not to go too deep, but goes into your nervous system and you know, it just affects that. So as you're sitting here, what are those elements of the story? I think that worksheet's gonna be really helpful. Maybe in terms of your 3 words and phrases, asking the people that you really care about and trust, what do you, would you say are my elements of my brand? Like, what do you think of when you think about my company or me as a professional? So I always like to keep sessions actionable, so that you're actually gonna do something after we leave, because this is all about your professional development. You already started talking about ways to cultivate your brand, and you said during our prep call, you're very intentional about the words, the marketing, the places you talk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you want to say more about that?
Yeah, so I do have a spreadsheet that I fill out every single day. And it has 5 days for each week, and it has all of the factors that make my business successful. And so it looks at how many times am I doing speaking, how many articles. Now, FYI, I'm not doing these articles every week, but what I do is I do all 1 month at a time. So I know I have to write at least 2 articles about my target market per month and get them published. And not in my newsletter, like on Kiplinger's or CNBC, somewhere where like everybody's are gonna see it, everyone's gonna see it. How many speaking engagements am I gonna do? How many podcasts? How many times am I sharing my personal story? How many COIs am I meeting? Particularly therapists are really great for me, trust and estate attorneys also. And I have a certain amount that I need to meet and have a coffee with every single month. And then the other one is how many networking meetings. And that could be a coffee, that could be hosting an event. And I have all these numbers where I am tracking this so that I can't lie to myself. And to keep myself accountable because there's a lot we can't control about our businesses. We cannot control the market. I've tried, we can't. We can't also track and control how many clients are coming in our door this week versus next. But what we can control is we can control our activity and we can control that our activity is all about serving that target market. So I will get requests to speak for certain topics that are not really serving our target market. And guess what I say?
No.
I say no, right? And so it makes it very easy to have that laser focus and keep going versus finding yourself going out here, out here, out here, out here.
We have another session on how to say no. Well,
Well, I need that one too.
yeah, right?
yeah.
Chelsea,
Yes.
how do you amplify and cultivate your brand?
Yeah, so something actually that I recently started doing this year was I picked 3 clients that we've really enjoyed working with that I feel like really embody everything that who we want to serve, who we enjoy working with. And just had the conversation like, hey, if I could clone you, I would. But I can't. So how can I connect with other individuals who are similarly like you? And where are you getting your content? So that was the thing that was more specific is I didn't want to put them in a position, because I already know all of our clients do actively refer because they are really happy with the service that we're getting. But I wanted to know, so how can I find more people like you? Like, where do you consume your content? Are you reading things? And we focused on the media a lot in the past years, but come to find out that although it is seen and it was great for like our reputation and validation, we weren't necessarily like finding clients through those mediums. So what we realized is by partnering with these centers of influence, that's where we were able to have more people find us. Still to date, it's been social media. So I got to shout out Sarah. She's our marketing associate here. She does a phenomenal job. But social media has been an amazing way that we're able to tell our story and meet our clients where they are. So our average client age is 39. They're scrolling on Instagram and TikTok from 7 to 9 p.m. That is their space. That is where they're seeing things. Still, I get clients who will send me things and I'm like, why are you even watching this? But I digress. But I know that's where they are. So I'm meeting my clients where they are. And we're intentionally creating video content and providing it there, but then partnering with other pages that they like, right? So if there's influencers or other programs that they're watching and they're getting information from, let's partner with them. So then we have access to their audience as well. So we're thinking of like non-traditional ways to make sure we're getting in front of the content that our clients are typically consuming.
And that is such a good point, spot on, because if you know, and again, I'm preaching to the choir, you all know this, when you know who your ideal client persona is, excuse me, like clearly, bless you, you'll know exactly what they're consuming, where they're going, and then you go there. It doesn't make sense to go where they're not reading, watching, etc., right? So I know that makes sense, but I often see our clients not always do that. So how do you amplify and
Well, so when we were talking about, there are three phrases or words, talked about, the third one I mentioned was education. And that for me is a really critical component. Actually, a lot of this I took from when I started with Savvy Ladies as a volunteer, of how many people, but also specifically women, don't know where to find the resources. So part of my inspiration behind starting our podcast about 1.5 years ago was that exact thing, is I know as much as we all would like to, we can't help every woman out there. You just can't, because you're gonna drown. You just can't. It's not gonna work. You talked about your minimums to become a client, but there's so many people out there, and it just basically something like Social Security. I do a lot of stuff with Social Security because it's as simple as it could be or should be, it is not. And so many people don't understand it. So with the podcast, I wanted to kind of think outside the box and go beyond. You know, we've done a lot of stuff on Social Security, but go beyond some of these other, hit some of these other retirement focused topics that aren't typical. They're not talking about Roth IRA contributions and Roth conversions. It's caregiving resources, because we know that women often find themselves in that role, especially if it's the oldest daughter. When mom and dad get sick, who's going to take responsibility for them? And the mental and emotional anguish that comes with that, and not knowing where resources are, not knowing there's people that can give you a break, not knowing how do I find the right living arrangement for my parents when they need memory care, they need assisted living. So finding some of these other topics that I can get out there that impact retirement planning for women, but aren't the standard, again, talking about taxes and Social Security and things along those lines. So it's that education piece, and using the podcast and using Savvy Ladies and some of the other organizations that we're a part of to get as much education out there as possible, so women know where these resources are, where can they find resources. And that's been my biggest thing, is if I can, the more people I can touch in some way, the better off people are gonna be.
And it's good to listen, right, versus read. I mean, depending, again, who your ideal client is. How long are your podcasts in general?
So typically 25 to 30 minutes.
Digestible.
Sometimes I get more wordy than that and they go longer.
Yeah.
That's the target.
How much time do we have left? 5 minutes, okay. So I'm just gonna ask one final question, then we'll open up some questions. What is your advice to really helping these wonderful volunteers just go the extra mile to really brand themselves in a way that's gonna reach their audience and really get to that pain point, that challenge that you're looking to work with more people? Like, how do you, what's your best advice? Let's start with you. Cecily.
So I think that it really goes back down to saying that this is what I used to say. I work with successful couples, successful individuals who are looking for holistic financial planning. Yeah, that's not so exciting. Now, the way that we talk about is we work with women who are going through divorce, who need a helping hand, who have never dealt with finances before. And work with those women also that their spouse may have passed away and they feel all alone and need someone. How powerful is that? You can see that when I've done that, all of a sudden, you've narrowed that, and all of a sudden the person's thinking, do I know someone like that? So my advice is just with absolute courageousness, be absolutely clear about that woman of who you work with. And the more specific you can be, the more successful you'll be.
And to piggyback off of that, once you hone in on that, I think it's important to ask your clients, because it was a very humbling experience early on where I went through this similar exercise and I asked my clients, okay, what would you say my brand was? And they said something completely different. And I was like, oh, there's a disconnect. I thought I was presenting in this way and you're saying it's over here. So also using that as an opportunity to course correct and acknowledge, okay, maybe there's some things I should change about my brand to make sure that they're receiving me in the way that I hope. Or it may be a sign that maybe your brand is something a little bit different and there may be more opportunities available for you and where they see you, right? And you hadn't thought about it as well. So I think regardless, that conversation can be really eye-opening. But for me, I think it really was when I asked that question, I realized they were somewhere separate than where I was. I just went that way then because I was like, clearly I'm having a lot of success. I'm happy and I'm enjoying this because my passion was still close to where my knowledge and expertise was. I just hadn't thought of what they were saying. So be open to the different areas and opportunities that may present from those conversations.
I think you're getting taking the niching process even one step further. So I was talking to Lisa earlier about, you're gonna focus on working with women. Even within that, what are you gonna help them do? So for us, for example, I've always loved the retirement income piece of financial planning. More than, and some of the, it doesn't mean I don't know about 529s, I can't talk about those, but it's not really where my passion lies. It's those critical pieces of that retirement income puzzle of Social Security. Like I said, I talk a lot about Social Security because, you think about, a woman that went through divorce many years ago, not realizing that they may be eligible for ex-spousal benefits or specifically ex-spouse survivor benefits. And so how many people just don't know about those? And tax strategies and which account should I be drawing from first? And so taking that next level, so if you really are passionate about working with women, actually that's step one. But what are you gonna help them do? Make sure you've identified, it's not just, well, I'm gonna work with women, what am I going to help them do? Right? And taking that next step and honing your skills. Savvy Ladies, just for me, one of the great things about Savvy Ladies is it helps you hone in your skills. So when you're talking to women, especially if they may be asking you a Social Security question, it's their only source of income. So if you don't know enough about it or whatever topic they've asked you for guidance on, make sure you're using that as a chance to improve yourself, because that's not gonna do it. It's gonna help that person, that Savvy Lady client, but it's gonna help your clients too. So understanding what's that next step? What are you really gonna help with?
And I feel like there's so much to what the three of you just shared that we always like to say, people don't wake up and think, who am I gonna refer to? Navelja? Oh, God, I should know. Okay, yeah, people don't wake up thinking, who can I refer to you? Like they're busy, right? So by doing these things that was shared, that can significantly increase your referral rates. I mean, again, preaching to the choir, but sometimes it's often that we forget these things. So thank you. How much time? 1, 2 questions? Okay, yeah.
Okay, Vanessa.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I know she was looking. No, I just wanted to thank you. And of course, Stacy, it's always an honor to support you. I've been a longtime volunteer of Savvy Ladies for like just shy of 10 years. I think I'm aging myself. And I was, volunteer of the year in like 2013 or something like that. I love your yellow, by the way. You look beautiful today. But I wanted to say, my question is, I know it's about personal branding. I work for JP Morgan Chase. I've been in wealth management. I'm in business banking right now. I understand the power of your personal brand and how you show up, and that's beyond the company you work for. But people aren't buying the product, they're buying the person. But I wanted to segue into another important topic, the art of networking. because they say your network is your net worth. And I wanted you guys to break that down and why that's so important for everyone in the room as they're building their businesses.
So the way I look at networking is a little bit different. So I don't look at networking as a chance to get referrals. I'm looking at networking as finding resources when my client calls, doesn't matter what they call me with, I have somebody I can connect them to. We helped a client who's actually our next door neighbor. We helped her find the rehab facility that she went to when she fell and fractured her hip. Doesn't matter what it is, if it's got a dollar sign attached or not, if they have a problem, I want to know somebody that I can connect them to. Especially, because I can't help with those things. I like to say I can help with everything. But if I can help, I want to be able to connect them to somebody that can. So it's finding, don't just think about the estate planning attorneys are great. The CPAs are great, but find some of these other areas, these other professionals. Again, I talked about caregiving. So a senior living advisor, a rehab facility, find these other resources because they can also refer to you, especially when they understand why you're referring to them and they say, well, wow, why would that person ask you about that? Why would they ask you for a rehab facility? It's because they come to us with whatever their problems are. That's going to open some eyes. So I think from a networking perspective, expand your reach to find resources for your clients, and that's going to ultimately expand your opportunity for referrals. But just doing it in a little bit different way.
I'm going to add actually to something. So the way that I met Stacey Francis was because she has Sunam, who actually is fabulous at what you just said, okay? And I had a lunch with her and I was amazed. By the end of the lunch, I had a list of all of these people. Anything I mentioned, she had somebody for. And she not only had it then, but she followed up with the phone numbers and the information and all of that. So, you go to the lunch and you leave and you say, I'll follow up and I'll get you that name or I'll get you that phone number. And then you never hear from the person. And seriously, you never hear from the person, right? And she did something which I thought was incredible. She followed up, she got me the information, and I knew she was a resource. And then I knew that Stacey's firm was super organized, and I started referring to Stacey's firm because of that. So I will say it really is about the follow-up, and it is about having that whole network of people that can put something together for you when you're in a time of need. That is the person that you want in your life. And that's the person who you're going to refer business to.
I can get back off of that too. If you think about it, a doctor, don't you want your doctor and the nurse and the radiologist and the cardiologist all speaking to one another? So when you're, when you think about the advisor, you don't have your attorney on speed dial. You've got your advisor that you can pick up the phone and call and say, my husband just passed away in this freak accident. What do I do? What happens now? And so I love the fact that we have that opportunity to be able to pick up the phone, call the next person who knows that person who knows that person. Everybody is aware of that story so that that whole entire team can work in order to help that person transition, whether it is emotionally, whether it is financially, whether it is whatever that next move is going to be, because it's going to be big. And you've got to make sure that you have that, that fundamental network in order to be there in support and knowing that person can relax at times or just feel, because a lot of times they feel, don't leave me. My husband just passed away. You're not going to leave me too, are you? And so it's a massive emotional state that a lot of times people go through, and that support is critical, actually.
By the way, just so I can give her a shout out, just amazing compliment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, thank you.
His podcast is simply retirement. He didn't mention that, so.
You guys are awesome.
Keep it as a podcast, it's a retirement podcast.
Great to have you
Downloading
along.
One thing I always say to my clients at JP Morgan is we're an extension of your team. I support business owners predominantly, so I say we're your team of advisors, right? So we have someone for every single need that you have, so that they know they have a full board of directors behind them. So I love her comment.
One final, I do love your comment, and your comment made me think, wonderful wife, that and networking can be exhausting, especially, are you in the city? Are you in the?
Oh, am I saying? Yes,
Yeah.
I work.
I mean, there's so much going on, so I would say go to the ones that bring you energy, bring you joy. Don't oh God, I gotta go to this other thing. And then to your point, related to that, is that to have that core network, the fewer the better. Quality trumps quantity. So you don't want all these folks. Who are your core group of, yes, COIs, but people that like, we get each other, we trust each other, we like each other, and that takes time. Well, just like any important relationship,
Yeah.
where it ultimately will become a referral relationship, right? So, yes.
I'm gonna just add something. I think that was the best analogy, the doctor analogy, because I don't know how it is across the country, but the doctor analogy in New York is key. If you have that doctor who has that referral and they have this group of people that they refer to, it's great for them, but it's also fabulous for their patients. And one of the reasons that I love my internist is because I can call her for my nutritionist, or my, the person who's gonna do my mammography, or the person who is the best gynecologist, or the person who is gonna deal with my husband's issue. Because I can pick up the phone and she will have this whole group of people and they hang out together and they like each other and they speak to each other. And that makes a very big difference in how you pick somebody. So I think it's really important.
Yeah. All right, gosh, we can talk. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask, have you guys thought about sharing your client's story? So like, I'm not a Gen Z, but I definitely cling to TikTok, like especially when it comes to financial literacy. And I mean, I'm in pursuing my CFP designation, so like I am very much like I see both, and I'm a journalist, so I see both sides. I like talk to people. I love asking questions. But have you guys thought about the transparency of actually showing like where you took your clients? Like you guys are so big on telling the story, but like people cling to that, like the transparency and like, wow, okay, she started here and then now we're here. And then like, revealing that. Would you guys be open to that?
I can jump in. We're one of the first firms who embraced testimonials. Testimonials were not allowed in our field until very recently. And we have done that. You have to be very careful how you do that. We're actually going through an SEC audit. It happens to us every year, but they have zeroed in on that because we're one of the first firms. The good news is that we did everything so right. And I'm so proud because we got an outside agency to talk to. You can't talk to one client. You have to ask every single client, right? You cannot change in any way what they say. You cannot post what they say. They're the ones that do it. But it's great, but what I do have to say, for all of those out there, that have not embraced testimonials yet, it will change your business. It's so powerful, but make sure you read up on doing it the right way. Because this is going to be the SEC's area where they give a lot of parking tickets. So.
Yeah, I would just add, I think it's something that we've been focusing on a lot more to see. There's another firm that I follow, they do it specifically on YouTube, and I think they do a phenomenal job with it. I personally have just not found the time to actually sit down and record it, but I think it's a huge opportunity because we talk about client success often and we share these stories, but to be able to visually show like, hey, with these concrete recommendations, like this is where you could end up as well. Like, I think that's where the industry is going. It's like having visual proof and examples. So stay tuned. If you follow us, you may see it before the end of the year.
Which is interesting, like on TikTok, I don't know what it is, but I cling to people that like share their debt story. And it's because they literally like, it's a step by step by step. And you're just like,
Yeah.
love like the end of this story. And
Yeah,
I'm like, wow. And I'm like, I love hearing that, like, so like, I feel like that could probably help people here of sharing, those stories, right? Cause people love to know the ending and the ending is good.
Well, hopefully your clients who have the stories are telling their stories to their friends and that,
I'm not an advisor. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that like, I like, just as someone who likes social media, like that's what I like cling to is the transparency.
I think that's a great point, but to Stacy's point, unfortunately, the SEC makes it so hard for these firms to do that. And the just even like the, reviews, that's a big conundrum for a lot of advisors, because as soon as you allow a review and you've got one person that may have not had a great experience and they can ruin your review rate by writing something negative. And so it's really an area that's been highly debated in media.
Okay, we definitely need longer sessions. All right, thank you.
So, before we, take a moment and take a coffee break, which we're gonna do for about 8 to 10 minutes, just listening to you, thank you all so much, Liz, you're fantastic, like, what a round of applause, just a great moderator, our panel, thank you so much. But you spoke and there's such a common thread, and this is why, you guys, this is why I loved having this program and this inaugural opportunity to bring volunteers and like-minded people together who want to help, is because you all have compassion, which moves into empathy. But the word I heard is you're building trust. Like Eric is building trust with his potential clients by being a good referral of sharing education and content. And everything you all said, from Stacy and to Chelsea, is that's what Savvy Ladies is all about. That's what our goal and our intent has been, is to provide education and build trust. That is our biggest goal, and my largest goal as executive director is to build trust in what we put forth to the clients, so they will want to use our service. So I know people were not on mute or whatever that is. I won't talk over much more, but it's really, it's building that trust with the clients. And I loved, Chelsea, when you said you're reaching out and you're asking the clients, like, what's so great? Take a look at these. Enforce mute.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try to do that.
Zoom 101, because we haven't. since 2000.
But I love that you went out to clients that you loved working with. That is so cool. And Savvy Ladies, as we're sitting with, we have helpline clients. We call them clients. As I tell you, we're seeing 10 to 12 a day come to the helpline. They're asking about debt. We know what they're asking. We're trying to build testimonials. We're trying to have them have the courage to want to share their story with us, so we can share it further, one, with the volunteers, because it's such positive feedback for you to know that you're getting a positive result from the work you've put in, meeting with the client. So the testimonials help you move forward to connect with more women, but it is also very important, and I love that, because it is something, it's hard to do because not everyone wants to give that story for whatever, there is their own personal privacy. To keep it private from maybe a domestic abuse situation, financial abuse situation. And also there could be that they just don't want to, because we still know talking about money is not comfortable. And one of the campaigns that Savvy Ladies is getting ready to launch is the power of having money conversations. And that is something you will hear from me for the rest of the year. And as we move forward into our programming, into our gala, that we all know financial knowledge is power, but it is having a financial conversation. We're going to prompt everyone, are you having a financial conversation today? So with that thought, let's have a coffee break and we'll come back in 8 minutes. All right, and everyone on Zoom, we'll see you in 8.
No, I said it, not so my heart. That's Melissa. Yes, nice to meet you, Danny. Here. I know, I wanted to talk to you about your. I'm good, how was your trip?
Been on a colonized. I have a.
Are you like trying to? Service.
Okay, actually, and that's where
How you doing?
for,
Good job.
Yes, it's state by state. mix. I would say that
Busy mom.
You're ready to live like fly and.
Client is announcing a deal tomorrow, so.
My brother was and I was not that old, like, and yeah, I've been a year already in, so I'm like 3 classes away from the everything exam.
Ours, they're local
I
university.
have a state city,
Whatever,
retirement,
and he also
like
might not be
Capstone.
state or be city too,
But-
like the New York.
Yes, but I just,
Yes, there's a football area. I don't know how far it will go, right? There's also delayed sometimes in a particular area.
Like I should do something, it's rad to get here and go.
Right,
Like,
right, so like legal aid, bar association, there's also
when they told me.
Westchester
For identity
County
and
Women's Justice Center.
At least
So
mine
there
are,
are
like,
then
we're talking
for them
like,
and
so
organizations that focus on that.
Up and running and there's programs.
Yeah, no, that's,
Doing everything.
so that's what I would say, yeah.
They have access to
Because you
technology.
need to stay with what you do and also there's of course all the other insurance issues, right? You start to advice.
I'm pretty sure. And then she, well, she was just recently promoted, and now she's doing, no, but you know, I just mind. My president,
That's my son, it's my preference. Okay, in all seriousness, and I worked very hard.
Sorry.
yeah, no,
And they were, oh, you still have to write and your job and do everything until.
Member of the LG.
Yeah, so I,
And
I was like,
yeah,
yes.
Like,
Yes, I did. Yes, yeah.
Well,
Now,
Other women's.
Like, I
actually,
I even know my
Constantly bring on 25 or
And
we're growing.
like Steve's that are here.
I'll
Say it again.
Get started and so
I'm 5 feet.
I
So I always think that our big board tells as well.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice. And it's not that somebody missed me, okay, but it actually is, and I don't like that, it's just how we're going to be, and of course.
No, I appreciate
And there
that.
was one litigator that I remember, like, used to come in and she would teach all.
First I know is Bobby Weinstein.
And she would tell.
Yeah,
So I had.
That's kind of how I know about you, it's not how I know you're so great.
Right.
So it's great. You guys really do a good job.
Talk about great branding.
Yeah, preserving your food is like a big thing for me, I know.
Yeah, yes, so it's actually, talk to Tracy,
Like how
I
you
think
guys.
Tracy is right
So
there.
it doesn't matter now, what my career now, okay, but I would never go with.
AOL.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Just give me the out.
Like not, like.
Yeah, that is in,
Deal with like.
some advisory, they happen to, they're at that ones too. I went, of course, this will kind of bring into it, so yeah, so Tracy will tell you. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My forte, you know, like very minimal knowledge of all of that, right? Like, oh, sorry, yeah.
Okay, I was just looking time.
Yeah.
So what makes
People coming out.
website,
Here, Brandon.
the application, and we'll get an auto email for me, the schedule. I do a recording,
Yeah, well.
what it looks like to be a client and all of those things. So, that's,
Yeah.
I do not want to be,
Oh my God, I went for job interview.
I just have to be able to do everybody one-on-one, but if that time doesn't work for you, I would
And I don't
definitely
think
do.
so, just I didn't get the topic.
And you get it.
I got an interview at Harvard. I typically, I am not Harvard.
Yeah.
And I
To
was.
get an idea, okay. So.
I got, and then.
Sales
I know and whatnot, and she was implying that you feel it could help based on their question. And other areas of expertise. And then these sorts of meet with consultants one-on-one, either Zoom and.
I love it. So, well, that's even too, like.
Your questions answered.
Right? Like, so
Ryan, I don't know. But if you said trust, talk to you, so that's how they all work out. So, but I'm just thinking, like, is it easy to follow it? And be able to know something like that. That's a shop, so this webinar, I haven't really, over Zoom, everything we do.
Being a film critic. I wouldn't be being a film critic to be a cover.
Yeah, so we clean it, so. And it'll say become a volunteer and, yeah, that's the first.
One day I'm interviewing celebrities.
Yeah, that's the point. I would see.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm like.
Hey, how are you guys? Hey,
Like, journalist. How do you, as in your job interview, they're like, they like kind of test you.
I know too, and my clients have been telling me.
Yeah, little bit.
You see, then like one of my lunch, she went to the bathroom.
Managing information was a typo. Like all this. Hold on.
I know, and then she's something else.
Yes.
I love.
Million things.
Yes, it's my other.
That's even better. So I end up, no, you're probably right. I work for Who Wants to Be Here List. And I don't know. I fact check the questions. It's the same as I checking an article. It's just. You're welcome. I want to put the rest of my cards out. Yeah. But I have stuff to do. I cancel my meetings, but I wanted to attend. And I'm reading what I was.
I know, right? They look better, they better. Okay, we're not.
I got money, it's okay. Yes, we spoke, so since we have.
Never do the camera with my phone.
I know.
Kind of everything, media outreach, our newsletter, media, you name it.
Really, no, it's really.
Yeah.
It is, I understand like that. Like, go on, to command it, goes over, like,
Oh, yeah.
so that's what I'm saying, like, so I love it, I think so. It's funny, like, I think like, those are the ones that like, you know, like get the most.
Really happy and I want to really.
Well, yeah, you just feel for them, you just feel for them, you know what I mean, like, like, oh, I did this to Sing and I did this to Kai. Danny. Well, no, we were just talking about that, you know, like the transparency goes really, because people go on there and expose everything.
And I cited
Like the transparency, like on there, like,
I need to.
we were just talking about like, you know, sharing your story, like people connect with their stories.
We're gonna start.
Oh, so you don't need the.
A couple minutes. Maybe let's grab the coffee, we're gonna start.
Little import reviews.
Grab a yogurt.
There, and they have all the SEC disclosures, they have webinars, they make it so seamless. It's made it well. So you do. It's
It's the
so I still LinkedIn where people find advisors.
Okay, I know, I'm
Advisors.
Great. Okay, I'm not reading this next bell, so I. Ringing a bell.
How do you say your name again?
And actually, inspired by Jack Hanna, so she's a financial advisor, but she also launched client program. Yeah. Advisors are part of her. Is it
Yeah.
Brian Marks.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
I'm with Nam and Marks, we're providing the facility.
Okay. I can use some of your, you know, what I'm doing, during.
I don't know, whatever it was, some serious. It sounds right, whatever number you say, it's like. Yes, yes. I guess you have. There.
Yeah, you should, know the black box, so I guess they, I don't know if you choose from it all, I like that. It's just one thing, I mean, yeah, all that stuff,
What firm are you with now?
I'm not at.
Welcome back. I know, welcome back.
We're gonna get.
I've been here 20 years, so I.
Okay.
I think next time, no, ring a bell. Ring the dinner bell. Really thrilled to get started. Hi, welcome back everyone on Zoom. We have such a nice crowd watching and joining us on Zoom. So thank you back from our coffee break. Really appreciative of all of our supporters. And in person, we're in a really lovely space, and Notman Marks has opened this up for Savvy Ladies, and their team is amazing. I don't know where Francesca is. In the corner, you can't see her, but she helped me coordinate this whole event and made it so easy. These are the partners, collaborators you love working with. So thank you. And I would like to introduce Mark from Notman.
Brian, yes.
Brian.
Yes, that's.
I am totally.
Last name is Mark. Last name is Mark. All the time. Yes.
Sorry.
That's only the first time today. Really it should be Francesca here because she did all the work, but you want to come up? No, you're good. My name's Brian Marks. I'm the president of Nam and Marks Financial Training. We provide training for the SIE, the Series 7. We do a lot of high performance work as well. We've been working with your organization for a long time. We've really enjoyed it. We just want to thank you for inviting us to be a part of it. We've been to several of your events. Admittedly, the LinkedIn party floor is much nicer than this conference room, but we're happy to have you down the street today. And I still do a lot of the training here. I do a lot of the strategy along with my partner and CEO, Liza Stripe. And I just want to thank you for inviting us, and we hope you have a lovely day. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. With that is really my pleasure. We're going to have a great fireside chat today. Suzanne Syracuse has been and is a board member of Savvy Ladies. She is our VP of Product Development for Savvy Ladies and a long-term board member. And really thank you, Suzanne, for all of your brilliance, like just strategy and marketing. And I love working with you as an executive director. I think together with all of you, we think outside of the box. We think of new ways. So I love hearing the conversation about TikTok. We think of new ways, and it's really a pleasure. And I think that is also one of the beauties of Savvy Ladies is we have an amazing board. And with that, Suzanne, if you let me take a pause, I would like to introduce some of the board members that are here in the room today, who are able to join us. Lisa Zeiderman, if you stand up, Lisa Zeiderman. Thank you. Delight working with you. And again, we think outside of the box and we think of new ways to reach new customers, new clients, new volunteers. It is a pleasure really working with you.
Same, Judy.
Really a pleasure. Jeannie Berger. A
Like 26 maybe, a long time ago.
long time. So
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
working with Stacy, so that is sort of, you see where the organization started and the vision continues, but as we grow and expand across the country, it is really terrific. And thank you for being here. And I loved hearing your story just 2 minutes ago, sharing how you're bringing financial literacy into your daughter's school. So for our daughters, I love that, which is a message Savvy Ladies is carrying forward this year. So pin on that. We can get to that in conversations later, but we love conversations for our daughters, having money conversations. So valuable, so important. Nikki Amor, please stand up. Has joined the junior board. She is also a CFP, also a volunteer on the helpline. Really fantastic member who is moving it forward, sharing her wisdom. So thank you so much for being a volunteer, joining the initial junior board and seeing us through and helping us as we develop a mentoring program. Thrilled to have you part of it and taking advantage of the opportunities with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the mentorship. It's really been great, especially for new advisors. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. And that's another conversation we can have, mentoring. But Savvy Ladies put together a junior board, and then we put together a junior board mentoring program where we brought in past change makers, past honorees to help lead. Kate Healy led the programming that we did, and we met monthly with a curriculum, and it's been really fantastic. So really appreciate that. So Suzanne, you're fabulous. And because of you, you brought us Hannah Moore. And Hannah Moore got connected to Savvy Ladies. So excited for you guys to have a fireside chat. Hannah Moore is going to share her journey, her dream, but she sends referrals to Savvy Ladies of her clients, I guess, externs, and they come to Savvy Ladies and they are some of our top volunteers, and it's a wonderful, wonderful flow. It's a great experience learning that they get to learn with clients as they can take that to their sort of own businesses. So thank you and really enjoy what you're going to talk about today. So take it away, Suzanne. Hannah.
Awesome, great. Well, thank you, Judy, and for everything that you do. And when we hired Judy, what, 5 years ago, is it? Everything changed, right? And what a testament to just getting the right people in the right roles. So thank you, Judy, for everything that you do. Thank you to all the volunteers for you to be here, for what you're doing on a daily, monthly, weekly, annual basis. It's so important. It's so core to what Savvy Ladies mission is. So thank you. And I'm really excited to talk to Hannah. So you know when you meet somebody and you're like, they're really special. That's how I felt when I met Stacy. I was a longtime publisher of investment news, and Stacy was an advisor that we covered. And then I got to learn a little bit more about the mission of Savvy Ladies, which is now how I've been on the board. But I was like, how do you find the time to do all of this stuff, right? And not only that, she's like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. So I'm like, how do you do all of this? And you're still so nice, and look great. So I'd be like haggard. And I felt the exact same way when I met Hannah. And I was introduced talking about the power of the network. I met Hannah through Kate Healy. It was a referral. I'd left investment news and left media after a very long career there and started consulting to this industry, to other firms that wanted to do business with and market to financial advisors. And during COVID, Kate was like, I really want you to meet Hannah Moore. She's a financial advisor, and we'll get to that. But she also started a program during COVID that was geared towards aspiring financial planners who had essentially lost their internships because there was no in-person meetings. So she created this 8-week curriculum that they would do online. And in addition, again, to her day job and her volunteering, I don't know, and another incredibly nice person. So I started working with Hannah a few years ago on really elevating the externship. We now have, is it like 1,000 people that are enrolled?
I just checked my numbers. We're at 999 right now. So by
Oh.
the time we finish, I will probably be at 1,000 people that's so far registered.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So with that, I'm really excited to have Hannah share her journey, her story, a little bit about what motivates her. But the big thing is this abundance mindset and how you can do well by doing good. And again, preaching to the choir for everybody that's here, but she's really put this into a successful business model too, because right, we're all business people. So Hannah, I'd love to just open it up a little bit with did you wake up and decide, I'm going to be a financial advisor? What was your journey into the profession?
Yeah, well, you know, it's really, first of all, thank you guys so much to be here. I'm just like, I got up this morning, I was like, I can't believe I get to do this. Like, this is what I get to do today. So grateful to be here. I just love Savvy Ladies and the work that you guys all do. You know, it's really interesting. I had no framework for what a professional career was like. So I grew up in South Dakota, small town. I knew nobody who had to have a professional degree to do their job except for teachers. And so I was always good at school. So college was the next step. And so I just knew that I wanted to help people. And I was pretty good at math and that side of the brain. And so I went to Baylor and I really wanted to do nonprofit management. Oh, you Baylor here too? Oh my gosh, I love it so much. So I got to Baylor and I was just like, I just want to help people. Like, that's what I want to do. I really leaned into nonprofit management. So I started working at a nonprofit, answering phones for them and through a work study program. By the end, I was a right hand to the finance director, helping them do all their grants and everything. And I just realized I took an intro to personal finance class and just as I was always interested in it. And what I knew of personal finance was like budgeting. Like I just assumed I'd always be volunteering, you know, in the basement of a church somewhere doing budgeting, you know, budgeting stuff. And I realized one day that in the nonprofit space, I was like, I can't do this the rest of my life, which is so counter to everything that I do. Like you show me a problem, like I'm gonna get through it. But yeah, and then the next day I had my professor from my personal finance class pull me aside and was just like, you really need to consider changing your major. And I had no idea what this would entail, but just the lining up just felt very, it just felt very, very timely. So I ended up changing my major, stayed an extra semester, got an internship in Dallas. And so that's kind of how I got into this role. I had no idea what I was doing, like truly no idea. I had no idea what a wealth management firm was. I had no idea that like people who had money needed help this way. Like it really was kind of stumbling into that.
Yeah, and what is also fascinating is you were first career college.
Yeah, so my
Graduate,
parents,
right?
which my mom might be watching this. Yeah, so my mom went to one semester of college. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see kind of where everything is now. Yeah.
So the other thing that's fascinating, right? So not only did you become a financial advisor, but you ended up buying a female financial advisor practice at a relatively young age. Tell us about that process and maybe what you learned from that too.
So I remember on my interview, so I graduated December 08, so great time to be entering into this market. And so my professor connected me with this woman and she was like, I'm just desperate to find talent, to find somebody to hire. And he's like, I think you guys will be a good match. And so I go to this interview, I'm in a Starbucks in Dallas and she's interviewing me and, you know, I'm saying all the right things. And she goes, well, are you interested in being my succession plan? Well, I was like, well, yes, of course. I like literally had no idea what that meant. Like I went out to my car and like wrote down succession plan question mark, right? Like I had no framework for what that meant at all. And remember, like I don't know what a professional career is supposed to be. So this is normal for me because I've never seen anything else. And so I said yes, and I jumped in and basically got thrown in the deep end and figured out how to breathe. and that's and part of it is why I care so much about the work I'm doing now is because it shouldn't be that hard for anybody. Like it just shouldn't. Like that should just like I look at my graduating class and there's a small number of us. I'm the only one still in wealth management. Like everyone else has left. And so it shouldn't be that hard. But yeah, so that was kind of how I got in and you know, I've seen a lot of things, like so many people. I've seen the good, bad, and ugly of this field.
But it's inspiring to showcase that you actually didn't just become a financial advisor, but you can like it's foreshadowing of risk taking and deciding to go all in and actually acquire the firm and be that firm principal called Guiding Wealth. So in addition to her being a financial advisor and working with all different types of clients and running her own RIA, Hannah, as I alluded to, started a program called the Externship in 2020. And again, it was a direct result of, oh my gosh, we have a talent shortage. We have a training problem. There are a lot of people that are leaving this industry because they're not, quite frankly, trained correctly to feel confident about being financial planners. And you decided to change that. So can you talk a little bit about what the externship, where it was, and like where it's gotten to now in its 6th year?
Well, I think one thing important in this story is that we didn't just see this problem and just jump into it right away. Like we had started, so I left kind of where the broker dealer where I was at. I left that, I had all this time on my hands. My husband has his background in film and digital media. And so we started a podcast where that podcast grew. Partnered with the National FPA because like basically the podcast was getting so much traction that we were like, we don't have enough resources or time. And so we were continuing to invest in this new advisor community. So we had a Facebook group, we're doing all the things, right? So we were really invested. One of the things is I'm a big believer just taking the next step in the space that you're in. And so it just felt like the next thing to do. It was the next natural extension. We had some capacity for a variety of reasons. And so, yeah, we were still with FPA at the time, but we were, looking around, did some focus groups with students, realizing that we'll never replace that one-on-one experience, but everything else, we're like, hey, we could do this better and at scale, and just took the jump into it. It was wild. Like I look back and I still don't know how we did it. It was 3 weeks in a month. It was from the day we said go to the end of the program of pulling all of this together. But your question was, how did it kind of get started, or where is it at today? So we launched this idea. And I think one of the craziest things to me was we had this idea of an online internship. And I think part of what helped us was nobody had any ideas in that time of what to do. But what was so interesting was how many people got behind it and supported it. Like I think that's still to this day, I think it's one of the most memorable things in my career, perhaps my life, is we threw out this idea of we want to help students, right? Because that's what our message was at the beginning. It's evolved from that. We wanted to help students have an internship because they needed to graduate. They needed this experience. This is a key developmental point in somebody's career, professional career. And we didn't want this to go to waste. We didn't want COVID to take that from them. And how many people jumped behind that? We were getting referrals from career centers they're like, oh, I talked to so-and-so, I had no idea who that was. It was really the power of the idea, and then realizing that like so many people want to help. They want to help, but they don't know how. And so we gave them a really easy way to help. And so many people got behind it, from promotion to being experts in this program, Schwab, it was TD at the time, but like, to the partners, there were so many people that just jumped in to help this larger vision. I think that's, I always thought I had to do it alone. And I think this has really changed the narrative that no, it's the community, and the community will get behind you and support that. So in that first year, we got into over 200 universities, sent students to the externship program. It's evolved since then. So 2020, so now we're in our 6th year, which is just crazy.
And Hannah, how many people went through the program? And again, the original concept was geared towards students that had an interest in becoming financial planners and had lost their internship. So year 1, how many people went through this 8-week program?
We had about 1,100 that first year. We had 1,900 sign up, but it was a free, it's like free, so anybody can put their email in. But we had about that many do like so many activities, is how we defined it. But one of the things that I'll never forget, right? So my husband works with me full time. So he has media production as his background. So all the videos are super polished, all of that. But he also has an education background. So he helped write curriculum, which was hugely impactful for this. So we're about a week into this launch. We had a 3-week launch from like open to close. And we were targeting juniors and seniors who had a base. We assumed they had financial planning classes, that they knew what they were talking, like they would know these things. I'll never forget, we had a high school student sign up. And then we were like, oh my God, like, what is this? And we're seeing the numbers just ticking up and up. And we're like, oh, this is different than what we planned. So we had to go back to the drawing board and redesign the whole curriculum around it to basically say, can we take somebody who has zero knowledge in financial planning and help guide them through this experience of seeing what a career is like? So we changed the actual structure of the program based on that. And so now today we have, oh my gosh, we still have high school students doing it. We have our target juniors and seniors in college. We have underclassmen who are curious if this is a career for them. But now we've opened up this whole world of career changers, of people saying, hey, I want to come into this space. I don't even know what it's like. Think about that. What was an option for them before? They literally, they didn't have one. They had to quit their job and hope they get placed in the right place. And oh, by the way, our retention metrics are not that great in this field. Like, so we've created this space for people to come in and explore and see what this field looks like, to see what are the career paths available, where do they want to land, and what are their next steps. And that's what we're really giving folks. But this is also, these are the stay-at-home moms, parents who want to get back into the workplace. We're now giving firms. I was talking to Chelsea today. She's like, we have all of our interns do this. We're getting ingrained. We just realized this is providing a resource for so many people to as an entry point into this field that just wasn't there before.
And the thing that's really interesting, and Stacy is one of those industry experts where she's spoken at the externship. So there are 60 industry and financial professionals that are volunteering their time to teach this to, again, aspiring financial planners, career changers. There's been over 4,000 people that have gone through the program.
Yeah.
It's one of the few training programs that actually are allowing to dip your toe in before you take the full plunge. And again, because of the retention rates, because of the, incoming talent shortage, this was talking about and again, tying it back to volunteerism, how one person's efforts can actually make such a huge impact on somebody else and the entire industry. So it's amazing. I've talked to so many of the externs, you read the testimonials. It also helps people realize if this is not the right career for them, right? So really and it also from the demographic standpoint of who's actually attending. And it's much more, those that are coming to this program match the demographics much closer to the demographics of this country than the demographics of maybe the financial planning profession currently. And it's reducing that barrier of entry to, oh, I want an internship, I've got to come to New York or Chicago or whatever. And you can actually get all of that information through a digital platform. So it's allowing for more people that may have been a challenge for them, correct? Can you talk about that a little?
Well, and talk about this first year of the externship when it happened, right? We just basically threw it together. It was a sprint, like I've not done before. And we threw it out there. We just, we promoted it. It kind of went viral. And the thing that shocked me to a point is we have 40% of our folks are from an underrepresented racial group. 40% of our people, that is not what our field is, right? That is not what financial services is right now or has been in the past. So when we look at who's attracted to this field, it's everybody. And yet, why is it that we only have certain people who are in this field? It is the problem isn't the talent. And we're able to see that, right? And so it becomes this whole different narrative, right? We look at everything Savvy Lady is about, right? It's about helping the person. We've talked about empathy. It's about core. This is not an add-on thing. This is the heart of financial planning. And that's what we're leading with in this externship. That's what we're training to. We're training that the care for the client is the core of what we do. And I will tell you that message resonates dramatically. 91% of our folks say that helping people it's the number one reason why they're coming into this space. And so what's so inspiring about this is that I think about all of these folks coming into this. They are looking, why are they interested in financial planning? They have a story, like Stacey was saying. They see how financial planning has impacted their family, could have impacted their family, would have helped their neighbor or their brother-in-law or their community. That's why they care about financial planning. And that's why they want to get into this field. And so this field has been gatekept for so many years you have to have so many assets you have to bring in. We all know those stories, right? And we're saying there's another way. There's another way and there's a better way. And just the thing that just gives me chills is when I think about these externs, because they're not y'all, they are so ridiculously talented and they have such a vision for how they can help the world. And so it's like, how can we support them to do their great work in this world? How can we show them like, yes, this is a field for you. No, you don't have to recreate everything. Like there's people who've, done this, learn from them, but like the impact that these externs are going to have on the world is just, I can't even comprehend it.
And all of them, not all of them, but I would say the majority of them, as Hannah alluded to, said, helping people and giving back is the big motivation for getting involved in financial planning, which really wasn't the message 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And pro bono work plays into that because many of them, especially those from underrepresented groups, want to actually go back and into the communities that they grew up in and want to help those in those communities. And so just again, thinking of the reach that you have, all of you, of like helping so many of the people that you do from a pro bono standpoint, by giving the externship and the people that are going through the externship the ability to be successful in this industry, is again, going back to one person can really make a significant difference. So I think that's great. I also want to touch on something from a personal standpoint. So while Hannah was launching Guiding Wealth, right, we've talked about that, launching this now in its 6th year externship program, which is the #1 training program for aspiring financial advisors. You also work with your husband, which God love you. I know that there's some people that can track that. I can't even imagine this.
We have very clear rules.
Yeah.
We now have a
Cannot even imagine.
Yeah.
But you also have 3 children under the age of 6. Yes.
Yeah. So I have a 2, 4, and 6-year-old at home right now.
So all of us have to balance life, right? But caregiving, whether that's with aging parents, whether that's with a spouse or partner, whether that's with children, what kind of advice can you, like, what has really worked for you?
Yeah, well, I think it's when I think about being a mom and my work and all these things, this is why doing what I care about is so important to me because it fills me up. It's not a one-way relationship, it's a two-way relationship, right? Like as much as I give to my clients in my practice, as much as I give to the externship and these externs, because I really care about them, and my clients, like I really care about all of this, it gives so much back to me. And so I go home with not an empty cup, but a full cup that I'm ready to get back into my family. And I think that's one of the things I'm very sensitive to. Where's my energy? Like not just energy, but like, is this feeding me or is it draining me? And I'm in the fortunate position to where I can make changes based on that. And I know not everyone's in that position, but like I'm very, very attuned to, is this energy giving or draining? Because when I go home at the end of the day, I want to be so excited to see my kids. I want to be able to give them like out of the abundance, like the overflow of everything that's inside of me. And like that's what I think being able to have this work has been so important for that relationship, because it is that dynamic. And I adore my kids. I always struggled with the idea of, did I want to be a stay-at-home mom? It turns out I don't. I love them dearly. And there's so many amazing stay-at-home moms. My mom is a like it's wonderful, right? But I also realized that this fills me up. Like if I didn't have this, like I'd be like I'm not just a mom. I'm not just a business owner. I'm not just a financial planner. I'm all of these things and more.
Yeah.
And I think that holistic view of who I am really, really matters. The other thing I was sitting there thinking about, so this was always really important to me, and I'm a planner by nature, and gotta love us. I remember coming into this career and having so much worry about this, because so much of what I saw, even though I was working for a female advisor, was, it was a lot of men. You didn't see a lot of models of families done well. Like you didn't see, like, and some of the advice you get was really, it was hard. Like it was really hard. It was like you have to sacrifice your family for your work. And I was like, that's not what I want. That's not who I am. Like I'm not willing to do that. There's a really great book called The Power Code. It's about how women engage with power. And one of the things in there, it's one of the first books where I was like, oh, they took that from my head and put that on paper. But when women play a game with power, they opt out. They're like, I'm not gonna play this game. And I was feeling that inside myself. And so anyway, I remember going to a conference and hearing this woman. I adore her. She's wonderful. I think she's one of the best planners in the country. She was on stage and she's like, if there's any women here who want to talk about being a mom and in this business, like I'm so passionate about this. I want to talk about it. And so my husband and I were going through this. We had several years of infertility, so it's very tender. But I went up to her afterwards and I was like, I want to talk about this. Like, I don't like, what do I do? Like, nobody's told me. And so I was at this elevator bank and she goes, oh my gosh, yes, let me tell you, I could not have done this if my mom didn't live a mile away from me. I burst into tears, got on the elevator as fast as I could because my mom's 1,000 miles away. And so even now it's still tender, but I think one of the things that I've realized with motherhood, with business, with our impact, with how we're doing all of these things is that we're all given different resources, right? Like my mom isn't a mile from my house. She probably never will be. But I also have a very supportive husband. I have a whole different community. I have a flexible job. I have all these different pieces. And so what I realized in that was, no, I don't need my mom a mile away, although that would be nice. There's so many different ways to piece together the puzzles of our lives and the impact that we want to have. And sometimes we have capacity to do things and sometimes we don't, and that's okay. And so it's really about being resourceful with the tools and resources that you've been given. And I think that's the thing, is that I didn't trust myself that I was going to be able to figure it out when I got to that point. So I tried to plan, I tried to control, and I think there's a lot of wasted energy on that when I could have just been like, no, I know I'm going to be able to figure it out with the resources that I have when I get there. And so that's, I don't know, some thoughts on being a mom in
My God, you said that so well, and thank you for sharing that. I'm sure everybody can identify with one of the things that you said. It's such an important component, especially for women who tend to be the primary caregiver in most of their lives. Right?
My mom was right there on the screen.
Oh my God.
Like, this is not fair. You guys, this is not fair.
Oh my God.
talking. Usually I can talk about this without her. And I was telling her I was speaking. I was like, oh, they have a link. She's like, send it to me. I was like, okay. So I looked up and I'm like, oh my gosh. So
That's amazing. Hi, Hannah's mom.
yes.
Pleasure to meet
I'm gonna look this
meet
way.
her the last time she was in New York.
Yes.
Judy, do we have time for one more question? Okay, so what from the perspective of, thinking about volunteerism and giving back and that mindset. So what would be your last line with leaving everybody today with your advice or why you've driven everything through this giving back mentality? Like, was it just innate or how did this?
I'm just really driven by helping people, right? And I think the thing too that I always struggle with is I'm uncomfortable being held up. So Stacey, as you were talking this morning, I'm like, well, shoot, I maybe need to go talk to Stacey about some of this, about owning your story and the impact. But I think the thing that I not struggle with, I think the thing that's so true for me is that the work one person does with one woman is just as impactful. Like for that person's life. And like the thing is that like I'm moving in the next step. I'm moving with the things that I've been given and the resources that I have and the connections and the network and how my career has evolved. But like the impact of having one conversation with somebody, like you change their lives. And that is just as impactful. Like I think about all these externs. Like I'm not the hero of this story. Those externs are. They're literally putting so much work into coming into this field. And the impact that they're gonna have, like that's the piece, is that like it's easy to look at people on stage, but it's even more important like the impact you're having with those one conversations, like that is so powerful and is just as powerful. And I don't ever want people to forget that because we feel so helpless. I mean, there's so many places in our life where we have no power, we have no control. But you do have power and you do have control and you can help that next person, and that's changing their world, and that's worth it. And to not forget that.
Yeah. Oh my God. What a great last line. And again, you have such a great story. You've done so much for the industry. You're an inspiration. And to your point, the externs that have gone through the program, almost 5,000 now. I mean, think about that. And to your point, though, not just about the numbers, but just then what those externs are going to be doing to help others that are going back into their community, that are going to be delivering pro bono advice and that you're referring to savvy ladies. It's just this paying it forward, paying it forward, paying it forward. So thank you, Hannah. I'm so grateful that you're in our industry. Thank you, savvy ladies, and Stacy for allowing Hannah to share a little bit about her journey. So
Hannah, we did have one comment online and I
Yes.
wanted to share it because
Yes.
it's a great one.
it's better not make her cry for me.
It's okay.
It says, Hannah, you rock. Thanks for everything you have done for our profession, especially women. I'm a proud Hannah fan.
I'm a Hannah fan too.
Oh.
I am an extern.
Oh,
So I want to thank you, and just share a little bit, a testimonial. I'm a class of 23. I'm a returner / career changer. I had extensive experience in financial services, 15 years as a CFA, as an equity research analyst, and I found myself with 3 kids, ages 3 and less. So I took a step back from workforce. I had a significant experience volunteering in my community, and that career break was basically 15 years. So I used the CFP program, the education program, as kind of a way to reboot and pass the CFP exam, but need the experience hours. So the externship was a great way to start to build those hours. It was a wonderful gateway to reenter. So the program both gave me upskill technical skills like e-money, the nuts and bolts of planning, but I think the most compelling thing was sort of the case studies or being essentially in client meetings, client engagements from the very beginning, and how to engage with, I still have that one pager on circle your values, start with, and very illuminating because, I mean, even in my own case, my kids are now college bound or at college, and one aha was figure out what your story is with college. My pathway was very different than my husband's, and I just took for granted, have those conversations first before you engage. So it was a great residency experience. I think of the medical analogy, like a CFP is sort of like an MD to kind of, practice medicine, but you don't want to do gallbladder surgery on your friends or clients until you've had like a period of residency. So it's that. And then finally, what's compelling is there's a community and it's only 5-6 years old, but we have monthly regroups and that's been very powerful and that community's growing. So
Great.
thank
Wow.
So thank you. I love that. Like seriously, like this, like the best part of what I do now, especially is meeting everyone who's done the programs. I think about this with savvy ladies. I think about this with our externs. I forget who wrote a book about this, and I'm not doing it justice. They went around the world and they talked to women, and they said, "What do women need?" And they thought they were going to need money. They thought they were going to need resources. The number one thing that women need, I think it's people in general, is that somebody believes in them.
Yes.
Right. And like, that's what I feel like with the externs, that's one of the gifts that I can give them, obviously in the training, but I believe in them. Like, I believe 100% that they're going to change wealth management and they're going to have an impact. And I don't exactly know the solution for them, right? But they are going to figure it out. And I think that is one of the greatest gifts that we can give. And even within the savvy lady, like women that we work with, we can believe in them. And that is powerful. So I love it. Thank you so much.
I know we were a little long, so.
And Hannah's gonna stay, we'll still open for questions, but we have an amazing panel, so please, our second panel of the morning, Beth is a dear friend of Savvy Ladies. She's a CFP and a journalist. She's with Market Watch, and she is going to be our panel moderator. Rachel Roth is joining us. She's with the Foundation of Financial Planning, a dear friend of Savvy Ladies, true supporter, believes in our mission, and Savvy Ladies has been recipient of an FFP grant over the last couple of years, which has been used to fuel and build and enhance the helpline. So thank you so much for everything and all your support. And Ravi, who is one of our top helpline volunteers who commits his time. You find the time, the energy to work with the clients, give them courage, you give them financial courage. So thank you so much. And Beth, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody here and on Zoom. And I took the personal branding session to heart, and those are my cards in the middle of your tables.
Hey. Good for you.
I have a book coming out in November on financial caregiving. It's my story taking care of my mom and all the things that I had to do. It's very detailed, nitty gritty financial literacy, like you know, how to use power of attorney and how to file somebody's taxes after they die, that kind of stuff. It's very down and dirty financial stuff. But we are here today to talk about volunteering and how you build confidence and trust. And I wanted to start out first by just talking about how we are all volunteers. On the panel, we have some great volunteers here. I'll say that this year was my first year being a VITA tax preparer, which is the free tax service that the IRS sponsors, at least for now. We'll see if it's still around next year. But it's a great service because people in the community can sign up for appointments and come and get their taxes done for free. I had never done anyone's taxes but my own. In fact, I use an accountant. But I do my kids' taxes because it's cheaper and easier. So I had to inspire confidence. Like, what do I know about doing somebody's taxes? But there's a test you have to pass. And I'm very good at passing tests, as I took the CFP and the Series 7 and all of those other tests that all of you people take, but I don't have clients. And I had to go to this senior center and present myself as somebody who could competently handle their taxes and build their trust. And they have to trust that they're taking their taxes to somebody who could do it at least better than they can do it. And I took that very seriously and hope I did a good job. None of them have bounced that we know of. But I just want to go through the panel and talk about what volunteering do you do? And Robbie, we'll start with you because obviously you're one of the call center volunteers. So tell us what that is.
Yeah, so for me, I think it was a couple of years before COVID, me and my wife started having discussions on ways to give back. I started to feel very selfish, right? It started to feel like my whole life was just about continuing to progress in my career to get to this level. And around 2019, my dad passed away, and I remember him telling me that beyond what you do for a living, give back to the world. Do something that serves people positively, right? And during COVID, we were able to see all of the literature and all of the stories of people. If they didn't get the next check, they were going to be in big trouble. And I was looking for an organization where I could just sort of help anybody really with their finances. And what I recognized with my dad passing away was he had left my mom in a good financial position, but she had never managed it, right? She had never, she barely wrote checks. She didn't know, what any of the accounts were. And so I was able to find Savvy Lady, and it was like the perfect combination of a mission that felt near and dear to me, and knowing that there were a lot of women that were out there that had a similar story, but then I started imagining, well, what if my dad wasn't the kind person that he was? What if my mom didn't have two sons who were in the financial services industry? What was going to happen to that woman? And what abusive relationship were they going to be forced to stay in as a result of their financial dependence on somebody else? And so that's really what brought me to this organization and why, keeps me volunteering.
Rachel, do you wanna go next?
Yeah, I'm actually not a volunteer, so I work at the Foundation for Financial Planning, and our mission is to help people in need improve their financial lives by expanding access to pro bono financial planning. So I head our grants and programs. So in addition to managing our grant making, of which Savvy Ladies is a very wonderful grantee, I work with hundreds of nonprofit organizations. I've been in FFP for about 7 years. So I've worked with a lot of nonprofit organizations to really help them develop programs that integrate pro bono financial advice and guidance into their work to serve more people in need. So I provide technical assistance, I help them recruit volunteers, and I develop resources that support both the advisors, the clients, and the nonprofit organization.
And we know all about Hannah now, but Hannah, talk to us a little bit more about the volunteering part of what you do.
Yeah, I'm such a big believer, like, I'm a financial planner, I'm a CFP professional. And as that, like, what we do is volunteer, right? Like, that is part of our identity, I think, of what a profession, what it means to be a professional. And so really, I've done a lot of different things in my past. I'm a little busy these days, but we do it a lot through our firm. So when people come, we help them. And so I find that that's really where a lot of my pro bono has been, is people coming in and being able to help them directly through our firm.
And one thing I want to touch on is, when you volunteer, you have to make time for it. And right now, and you mentioned, one of you mentioned before, like, or it was you, Robbie, that people were afraid of checks not coming. Like, we're in that emergency state all the time. I know in my job, to do the taxes, I had to take off Tuesday mornings because that's when the senior center was open for taxes. And I have a very busy job. We're in emergency mode all the time. It's a busy newsroom. Like, stuff is happening every second, which usually doesn't happen in the personal finance world. But for some reason, the current administration puts out all its Social Security bulletins at 5 o'clock on a Friday. And they change like all the rules, and it makes no sense. But how do you convince yourself or your bosses that you should make time for this, and it's important, that it should be part of your workflow and your life and all that? Rachel, do you want to start? Because it is your workflow. That is what you do.
Yeah, and this is a good opportunity to talk about some of FFP's research. And I encourage you to download some of it off of our website. But the past couple years, we've done different research studies on pro bono, the motivations of pro bono among advisors, and what it adds to your life and your development. So a few years ago, we did a study called the Case for Pro Bono. So we surveyed 1,200 CFP professionals, and we actually found that pro bono contributes vastly to your own professional development. So I would definitely share that with your employers, not only in the principal knowledge topics that are outlined by CFP board, things like cash flow management, debt management, counseling, many of the topics related to the psychology of money, but obviously also soft skills like communications, working with diverse populations. And then it's also something that will help your firm recruit and retain advisors. Advisors, especially younger advisors, and especially women, want to work at a firm that supports pro bono. So if you need to convince your firms, you should download our research and show them.
Hannah, do you find that the things that you need to help in a pro bono sense are the same as you would need to help a professional client? Or do you have to sort of cross-reference those things?
So I'm a big believer that, so one of the things in the externship, right, we train financial planners, but like, what do we train them on, right? Like, is it a process that we're training them on? No, we train them to competencies. We train them on skill sets, right? And so I think that skill sets transfer very directly, because if you can help somebody when they're at their, like, in such a dire emergency need, you're going to be able to it's gonna make some of the work you do with your clients seem easy. So it's really building up like the skill set and then the reps on this as well. So I think that there's a lot of crossover on that. It might not be on, we're talking Roth conversions, right? It might not be a Roth conversion, but it's going to be what I would say are the behavioral based competencies that make great financial planners are what you're gonna be really building on that.
And Ravi, is that what you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think my background has really been in the hedge fund and private equity space for the most part, and
Not when you get on the call.
no, and I will say, like, I think firms like JP Morgan, they become a lot better about recognizing this need of offering the pro bono services and what that actually does to their employees. The alternative space is getting better, hasn't gotten there yet. I think convincing your hedge fund manager boss who started the firm when he was 28, that there's something else you can do rather than working for him 14 hours a day can be a little bit of a challenge. But I think what you recognize with people that when your cup starts getting closer to empty and you feel like you can spend a couple hours a week, 3 hours a week talking to somebody, to just an everyday person about their financial issues, that fills it up and that can make you better at your job. And I just think that there's just needs to be a little more education and learning on that side of the community to know the value that it presents.
Yeah, Ravi, what's some of the, we were talking in our pre-call, some of the things that people come to the Savvy Ladies Helpline about, like what's the core thing that they're looking for?
So I think a lot of it is they need to know where to start, right? I think, I have, like, for example, a 42-year-old recently divorced woman who, she did not have a great divorce settlement. She has $2,000 in the bank, $60,000 of credit card debt, a 13-year-old son that she's raising, 42 years old. Where do I start? I think there's a level of anxiety that has been built up because they have to declutter a lot and they haven't really taken inventory of what everything is. But there's also a level of shame that they feel, how did I allow myself to get into this situation? And then my job in that situation is to say, well, if I'm feeling sick, I don't feel any shame going to the doctor. If I have some sort of legal problem, I have no issues calling a counselor. But with money, there's this attitude that we need to have this figured out. But we didn't learn this in school, obviously, 20, 30 years ago. A lot of what we do behaviorally with money is how we grew up in our own households. And so you almost have to sort of let them know that what you're doing right now is unbelievably brave. You are submitting yourself to talking with somebody that is a complete stranger about something that you feel very insecure and a lot of anxiety about. And so a lot of that is just working through that situation and just giving them some place to start. You're not solving all of their financial problems with the call, right? It's just, if there's one or two takeaways that they can have from the call, I think you've done a good job.
That shame element is so powerful when it comes to people and their finances. And how do you see that come up in your practice, either with the externs or?
It's so funny. I remember when I interned, I remember I got to sit on like one client meeting that summer. And I remember listening to them and their numbers didn't connect to me, right? Like their eating out budget was more than my first year's salary. Like what I heard was so similar. It was echoes of what I knew from back home, right? And like when we look at financial planning, what we're dealing as people with money, the packaging looks different, right? Everything you're saying about shame, I have clients with millions of dollars who carry similar shame around it. It looks different, but it's the same thing. And so it's, the situation is different, but it's the same core human emotion. And I think that's what makes us so powerful as financial planners. It's like, yes, we're dealing with this money, but we're dealing with a human in front of us. And like everything that comes with that, the emotions, it's such a richness of what we get to do on that. And so, yeah, it's all of this. That's why it's so important. I think the pro bono pieces from a training standpoint is to be able to talk somebody through that shame piece that applies to the work we do everywhere.
Shame also, it's really hard to just ask for help. Rachel, do you find like you can get more people to ask for help because it's a grant that they're asking you for? Or like, do you get down to the people level with that sort of asking for help, and like what makes it easier to ask for help?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, that's like a challenge that many of the nonprofit organizations we work with, in terms of client recruitment, like, for many clients, it's not a priority to talk to, a financial coach or a financial advisor. It's scary, it's overwhelming, like, they don't know what they have to prepare. They think that it's not for them, because they don't have a lot of money. So it's, just, making that more approachable, helping them understand like what exactly, we encourage nonprofits to call it a financial coach rather than a planner, because it's like a little more approachable language, but it's really understanding like what a financial coach can help them with, whether it be budgeting, emergency savings, debt, like things that really impact them that they can understand. And then it's really like showing that you are trying to get to know them, like you want to understand their family and their culture and unique circumstances that they face. Like they really have like a lack of access to many financial services, and you want to just listen to them and show them that you care and that whatever solution you're providing will be personal to them. And obviously you won't be judging them.
How do you get the stature to tell them that though? Like, when I was doing the taxes, I was in a room with the tax people and like I had, like almost like branding. It's like, okay, I have a stamp of approval from the IRS. But really, I just like walked in off the street to do people's taxes. Like, how do you muster up the expert voice, to convince that person that you're in control and you're not ashamed, and so you can help them. Like Robbie, when you talk to somebody who calls the Savvy Lady helpline, like how do you express to them that you can help them?
So I think on a volunteer basis is probably a little bit easier, because I think in the beginning of the call, I always like to tell them that there's two things I want you to know: that I don't get paid by Savvy Ladies to have these calls, nor do I get paid from somebody else. So the stigma that a lot of the clients who've never been through have never had a conversation with a financial advisor, that, well, they have a little bit of skepticism that what is it in it for this person? And well, that gets eliminated right away, right? I obviously give them a background of what I've done over the past 15, 20 years, but I think the main thing is I let them know in the beginning that, the only thing I want to get out of this is that you get something at the end of this call, that you learn more than you did, that you know now. And my job really is to give you the same level of advice that I would give to my little sister or my cousin or my family member. And that resonates a little bit more than you would know. They don't need to know that I had an MBA from this school, I have these certifications. It's, I think, how you're expressing it and how they feel that you're connecting.
That's awesome.
I'll also add, like, so my very first response to your question was, this is why we need more diverse talent into this space. Like that's why, right? Like, and I think, I think we need to show our clients that we care, right? We need to normalize this stuff. We need to say like, no, this is completely normal. Everything you're experiencing, that shame, like, well, yeah, I would feel it too, or I have felt it, depending on what your story is. And really like normalizing that piece. And I think, we often think that we have to be pulled together, right? And I think there's so much value in just being like, no, I don't have it all pulled together. And you're gonna see some of my best. I mean, in the externship, you talked about the client video, you see my mistakes in client videos, like I just learned like 2 weeks ago that I apparently have misunderstood when an HSA deadline is. So like, oops, like, as thousands of people watch these meetings. But that's okay. That's the point, right? We're all in this together. And so I think normalizing it, the more human we are, the more I think people can connect with us. And I don't think people want, like, I don't have the energy to go with the perfect person, like, because I'm not perfect. And so I think the more we are real, I think it's to that branding standpoint that they were talking about earlier. I think of what Stacey was saying, like they go to our website, they know exactly that they're in the right place. And so I think some of it's a marketing, branding, being authentic, all those pieces come together.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to listening to people. Like during the pandemic, right in like 2020, I got a job for a brief time at Fidelity. And my job was just to like write articles, core financial literacy stuff. But sometimes they would let me listen to the call center calls, and I would find ideas this way. And one of the core things that came across in that is like just how complicated our financial system is and how ill-equipped people are to handle it. Like, for instance, the very simple idea of putting money in an IRA and not knowing that you have to invest it.
Yep.
There's one woman called that impacted me so greatly. She called into the call center and she's like, my husband just died. And he had been saving all his life in a Roth, not in a Roth IRA, just a regular traditional IRA. I felt confident that there was a lot of money in there, but when I opened it up, his entire life savings was in cash and it's $200,000. And it would have been $2 million if it had been invested, but he had been making the deposit religiously, but not investing the money. And when I started to poke into that, Fidelity told me, oh yeah, we know, based on our internal data, that 40% of people are doing this. They're making an IRA deposit of some sort because everybody says, you know, you should contribute to your IRA, you should put money in Roth. And 40% of people were not. Alarm bells went off in my journalist head and I'm like, I'm in the wrong job. Because I want to take that number and like make everybody know that number, but that's not my job here. So I made them release that number to me and let me write about it. But Vanguard finds the same thing. And like the shame that you have, like that prevents you from asking, okay, how do I actually do this? You know, like I want to save money, but I think putting money in an IRA, and an IRA is just an IRA, like a 401k is a 401k, and the money just magically compounds at the rate of the stock market. Well, no, that doesn't happen. Like the financial literacy is so that you need to get out there. Like if you convince that man 20 years ago that he had to invest the money, his wife's life would be different. And the call center employee was like, look, it's okay, you're 65, you have 200,000, that's a good head start. You know, you can invest it now, and when you need it in 10 years, it'll have grown. You know, it won't be as much as it might have been, but this is still okay. You can do this, we can help you with this. And like, that call is just like my whole idea of what financial planning and what volunteering and what one person can do to help another person. And that's how I see volunteering. I wanted to get to some of our other stories, but I'll tell you one more success story for my tax volunteering. This elderly man came in, didn't speak much English, and he, you know, you go to an intake person and the VITA restrictions are very stringent, you know, like almost everything complicated is out of scope, right? VITA only does like very simple tax returns. And this man came in with a Coinbase statement. He had a crypto transaction. It was a $6 transaction. Like he had bought Bitcoin and got freaked out by the price dropping and sold it right away. And his Coinbase statement showed a $6 gain or $6 loss, I don't even remember. And he's like not even understanding us, he spoke Mandarin, and nobody in the call center and the intake, none of us spoke Mandarin. And so I'm like, sorry, but like we can't do a crypto transaction, it's out of scope for us. So he was gonna have to pay like a preparer like $150 to process his tax return with a crypto transaction. And I was like, you know what? If you understood how to go onto Coinbase and buy and sell Bitcoin, you can go to Free File or TurboTax and file your own taxes. You have nothing else but a social security statement. You can do this. He goes, no, I can't do this. I'm like, yes, you can do this. You don't need to pay anybody. You can do this by yourself. So he went away and I felt bad because I couldn't help him. He comes back the next week and he's like, I did it. I got all the way through, but I don't understand where you attach the statements to your to send it in. And I'm like, you don't have to worry about that. The government actually knows how much taxes you owe. And you don't have to attach anything. They get the statement on their end, and all you have to do is claim it on your end so that the two match. And I'm pantomiming, the government gets it over here and you get it over here, and you just have to put it down so they can make the connection. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, you're good. Just file your taxes. And he went away and he filed his taxes. And like, that made me feel really great. I knew enough to help him help himself. And that to me was my volunteer success story of the season. And so I thought that one of the things that we can do is bring some joy to people and tell your best volunteer story. I don't know who wants to go first. We have a volunteer.
I can tell a story about, so it's not someone that I worked with. One of our nonprofit grantees worked with a woman named Sandy, and Sandy's husband passed away after a long battle with brain cancer, which left her personally and financially devastated and lost. She had a lot of anxiety about her expenses. She was working, but she wasn't making enough to pay her bills and save for her future. She said, I had no financial confidence. I was scared that I wouldn't be able to retire. I knew it was time to ask for help. So she connected with our grantee and with her financial planner, Melissa, who provided strategies for how to manage her money, as well as like one of the most important things was comfort and someone who was gonna listen to her. She said, I felt like I could share my fears with her and ask questions that I wouldn't have normally felt comfortable enough to ask. There were times I started crying with gratitude during sessions with Melissa. She really changed my life and gave me financial confidence, but most importantly, she gave me a sense of peace that I had been missing. So thank you for all the work that you do to help people that really need it and don't have access to it in other ways.
Yeah, tell us one of your, except for the extern over there.
Yeah.
Like your biggest.
There's just so many. I just pinch myself. This is the work I get to do every day. Like, how is this possible? And then I get paid for this too. I think of all, there's a recent divorcee that I'm working with. And just again, how she actually responded back to us, how scared and vulnerable she felt, like using those languages and that word. I also love, we had a 50-something-year-old couple, late 50 couple come in, they've never invested in their life, and we help them figure out how they can make it work. Like, that's incredibly rewarding as well. So there's just so many different places that this work matters.
Robbie, tell us some of your best ones.
Yeah, I have a small story, so I won't divulge your name and you'll know why in a second. So I had a client that I started the conversation, I had to do a little bit of information gathering. What are your cash balances? How much do you make? And I noticed that she was very reluctant to give information, which is generally atypical. Usually clients are very forthcoming in giving you that information. So we talked and we got a good feel for each other. And I think 15 minutes into the conversation, she divulged that she, for a few years, was human trafficking victim, right? And so she had just escaped. She was trying to restart her finances, right? And at that point, I don't have a degree in counseling or therapy. I have no idea how to sort of navigate through this, right? But at that moment, it was forget about, 529s and Roth IRAs. I had to be the best of myself in that conversation. Whatever sense of empathy that I knew, whatever listening skills that my wife, she was listening, she'll tell you how great my listening skills are. Please keep her on mute. And then I had to, what I was thinking was, once this conversation is over, I will have been the last male figure that had spoken to her. And I have to get this right. I'm trying to imagine what this woman has gone through, and I needed to write something that was going to be positive and make her somewhat trusting of other men that she's going to interact with in the future. And so I had no idea how that conversation went. And then a couple of days later, I get a note from her, and she asked a couple of questions, technical questions on what we talked about. And at the end, she wrote something about, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and I want to let you know how safe I felt in that conversation. And right, and I think that's part of what we're doing. We're trying to create a safe space for people to tell their story and a way for us to judgment-free help them with wherever they are. And that one interaction probably carried me to the next 100 calls, right? And that's why you do this, because you will get that kind of feedback. And I get so much more out of this than I think anybody on the receiving end is getting it. And I think that's the important piece for all volunteers to know. It will give back to you.
That is a very powerful, do we have time for questions? Question for Ravi.
Yes.
So I volunteer on the hotline and I'm still figuring out the nuts and bolts.
Yep.
So there's a whole roster of questions and, little select it. And then there's an automatic system that sends an email to the client and to me. And I've just found that shame is this incredible barrier, and I'm wondering how you break through. I can, if I do have a Zoom or a phone call with the client, if they surface, it's apparent there is a lot, they're always self-critical, even if they've, they've done a lot of things right. But my concern is for those clients who I just can't get to respond. So they'll reach out, they want to have a conversation, but I feel like they're hiding. How do you communicate safety so that they can surface?
Yeah, I'm not gonna pretend to say that it's 100% success rate, because it isn't, right? Like there are certain clients that are just gonna be reluctant, right? I think I try to be as forthcoming about my own story as I can. Like, listen, I got a degree from a really great, I have a finance degree from NYU. I've been in the industry for 20 years. But I tell them, anybody who tells you they haven't made mistakes with money is a liar, right? We all have. And I will specifically share some stories of 2008, 2009, where I got scared and my wife was like, look at the numbers, forget your emotion. Look at where we are. We shouldn't pull back. I pulled back and we left a lot of money on the table. She was right, just that once.
Don't keep her on mute though, right?
Yes, please. But I think it's the shame element of it, you're not gonna solve in a 1 hour call, but I think it's more, you need to have them take something positive away from the discussion. There needs to be something, some energy that they take with them at the end of the call that has them go forward, has them trusting of the information you're giving them. And I just think listen to what they're saying and give as much of your personal story that makes you relate to them as you can. And I think that can go a long way.
That's exactly it, Ravi. As I get lots of emails directly to me thanking you all for the valuable service that you provide for the clients. The one thing is when they're in that, kind of put yourself in their shoes. They don't know what to do. Their anxiety is high. They are human beings and they're in this situation. Think of the courage that it took for them just to reach out to Savvy Ladies. And listening, and I say this in every onboarding that I do, one volunteer just put it perfectly when she said, I feel like sometimes when I'm talking to them, I need to be their cheerleader. I'm in their corner cheering them on. We may have someone come to us that has a great plan, but they lack the confidence to execute it. So that's where storytelling becomes a great part of being a Savvy Ladies volunteer, because it allows you to meet them where they are and let them know that today is the day we're moving forward. So just giving them that light at the end of the tunnel. So, and I know you do that so well.
So I feel like Savvy Ladies, one of the ceilings we have with the helpline is not the number of women that need our help. It's the number of financial advisors, right? That can be there to help answer these questions. Love to hear from any of our panelists. How can we increase that number? How can we increase that number? I feel like there are thousands of financial advisors and coaches and people who are getting started in this industry who want to make a difference, but don't know how. And here we are saying we need you, but that message, you know, we're not a behemoth, right? We're a nonprofit. So I'd love to hear, how do we get that message out? We get more volunteers engaged.
Actually, Judy, I can work with you so we work exclusively with CFP professionals, but we have a platform called Pro Bono Planner Match.org where nonprofit organizations can post volunteer opportunities for CFP professionals. And then we can promote the opportunity through CFP board. So there's 100,000 CFP professionals, so we can work with them to get that messaging out to more CFP professionals, and I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, and have been an amazing referral. The FFP referral pro bono system has sent us over, I think, the course of the last couple of years, 180 volunteers to Savvy Ladies. And what is unique about the Savvy Ladies platform is that we made it acceptable. So it becomes an easy app to provide accessibility for the volunteers to come in and off the platform and use it at their convenience, because we know your time as volunteers is very valuable. And you might not be able to, because there might be some constraints at your business that you cannot do it during work hours. You can do it only at lunchtime or on your commute in. That is why the app has been so advantageous for Savvy Ladies. And it really is just continue to share it with your networks and your peer groups, because that is how we're going to grow it. So sharing it like Hannah has shared it, the FFP shares it, just.
I'll say, one of the other big things on like this specifically is, we're seeing talent come in, 91% want to help people. And they're getting in firms with multi-million dollar minimums, which isn't a problem to what you were talking about earlier, but there has to be a connection about why they came in the first place. They have to be able to help, somebody like their grandmother, right? Like that has to be part of the what they're doing at work. I think it's one of the reasons why we're seeing people leave. And so we did a research with the foundation, and one of the big takeaways is to just put it in your employee manual. We just updated our employee manual. Now, every employee can have 8 hours a year to go do nonprofit, to do volunteer work. And so I think that's going to be continuing to be a resounding theme around firms, is that we need to, this just needs to be part of your culture. This needs to be part of what's expected when people come and work there. And it's so easy. It's so easy. You just basically say, you can do this, and they will do the work, right? You don't have to. So I think that's one, is changing the messaging around what is normal for firms to be doing or not doing. And then two, we can help you get more volunteers. So,
but I think that it's also, some advisors feel like they won't be able to help. They're kind of just like the clients are scared and fearful, advisors are fearful that they don't have experience working with lower income clients, and just, provide resources. We do a bi-monthly skills building webinar series for people serving lower income people. Actually, I was thinking of topics during this that maybe you can present one month to get some more volunteers. Yeah, and just making them feel more confident that they can do this, and that there are resources to help clients even when they feel like they're not the ones that can help.
Sorry, to Stacy's question, I am sure everybody in this room and everybody online could find one other person. I didn't know you needed. I could.
Oh, gosh, but yeah, we do. Yeah.
So let's take that on, every one of us, find someone and invite. So my question is, some of us were talking earlier this morning, as you look through the list of questions, you want to be able to help. If there are 20, I think I can help with 3. But the most intimidating ones are the people with a lot of debt, because you just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we need some discussion, coaching, focus groups, but I mean, those are the ones I avoid like the plague, because I feel so helpless.
We're actually doing a 2-part skills building webinar series on debt in June and July. So if you check out FFP's website, because we hear this a lot too, and it might help, because you just, when someone has so much debt and not much income coming in, it's hard to know how to help. Yeah. So we'll make sure to share that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. 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 Any other questions?
It's amazing.
Any final remarks from the panelists? Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Well, everyone on Zoom, that is a wrap for this morning. We said till 11. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you to our sponsors, our room hosts. We're so appreciative of all of you, our volunteers. Schwab, thank you so much, Liz, for supporting. Now, day 2 is all virtual, 100%. So the link you used today will be used tomorrow. It's a morning that we will do some networking in the morning, and then we'll move by 9 a.m. We will begin our presentation from the American College, has a new study, and Dominica will share with us her study. So that will be about a 45-minute presentation tomorrow morning. So grab your coffee and join us by 8:15, 8:30 tomorrow. Thank you so much. And we're gonna stay here in the room. My pleasure. We're gonna stay in the room. If you'd like to join us for lunch, we can stay and mingle and network if you have some time. Oh, absolutely. Oh, you can hold it. Your souvenirs.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, okay.
Well, I tried. Thank you. I keep getting you. My book either. I have to turn in my copy of this today.
You're somebody trying to get.
You know, yes, I give him my little card.
I used to live in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, and loved going to Lambertville, New Hope Restaurant. It's been a while, but the walk, right? The walk, the bridge.
It's so pretty. It's been under construction for about 5 years.
Very, oh, so it's not functioning?
No, it is. Yeah, it's just one lane. So it's only a one lane now, so everybody's kind of going around. And so you usually have to take the whole way now, but you can still walk on non-spam. So I see that. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I think that's coaching.
Oh, that's great. Like Bucks County.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and like it looks like the tail end of Bucks County.
Yeah.
It's really very.
I'm not gonna see your awesome.
Lunch if you want to stay and mix and mingle, we have steak for day and a couple of coffees.
Nice to meet you. Your hair is, everybody exists.
I know.
I don't think it's, I said it that much.
It's very, very good.
Like if you have an issue, we'll put it after our really common call ours.
Yeah, very good. She just, and now she's like.
So like if you have like free workshop.
But yeah, some of these, so we have the operation team.
That is a big one that sponsors have. And like,
Differentiate. Not so much operation needs, more like,
Totally, and I think that's what.
I don't know, stuff you know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked for the floor.
I just assumed that like we had another committee, so just because we just like them talking about she was one of the first girls that I did the two.
Yeah.
I mean, certificate.
Have that leathery, nice.
You like, you're gonna get it.
Oh, you know, Heather William?
Everybody runs their back. And it was really good.
I can't wait to read this. It's, you know, it's such a topic that so many people just need work to understand, and I think.
I'm doing it now, but I heard, yeah, what is that? And I bring like back to, I can answer the investment.
There's I comments.
I used to live in Montville now. in 2020, but also that's when we moved, but I lived in Houston, like, where?
Like, there's not an easy.
Nice. Is it great? I. Super easy, I mean, and during the lockdown, a lot of started things, I had a feeling we're gonna get more flexibility and stuff. So, I mean, right, all those years back, it's actually, we weren't going anywhere, so,
I have like Ken charity.
so.
That helps me.
Now we have a dog and a pool and stuff like that, but I love we talked it. We got engaged, at River Falls.
It's not,
We got married.
so they are switching the taxable benefits. I think it's like,
I love it.
Yeah, they're having
charitable.
right there. They also have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been to the one in
Congratulations.
Weehawken, just been,
Yeah.
is it Weehawken?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you been to, oh my God, I need to go back there.
It's for. All right.
It's right next. The goal is on the
Great job.
right.
And thanks for all that you do.
Yeah.
Both of you guys.
Smooth on the Hudson.
Savvy ladies.
Have you been?
About that, we have not been yet. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
ridiculous.
Really?
Sushi is
That's
phenomenal.
Okay.
Especially sushi.
I do.
And the scene is, I think it's one of those like very,
Can't even imagine how many pitches you get.
like, food places.
Yeah.
Fine, I love it too. I like everything, but my husband.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
I was like an energy drink.
Oh,
Like, yeah, you can't break them.
yeah.
I mean, I get it, fine dining.
Yeah.
And yeah, but the food is really, really good. It's really good. So,
I do think it's great to set an example,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, so these things that I love, I just think I need to take advantage of it. But now, well,
I'm always great to see you. We'll be, we'll do a call with you. I gotta run, yeah, I gotta run to a meeting. All right, let's,
you know, I would like, you know.
okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, so like.
I did that. I did a PowerPoint, like,
Yeah, no, I want to talk about, and this other project that I work on for the net positive consortium.
So I did that because I'm like, oh, I can ask the question. But then there's major misconception that. Okay, yeah, the question is, like, how do I extract everything out of my house? And buy like, me buying a house is very, any number of what
yeah. So you will be back there.
So I actually do, because I have an in-person meeting today. Little things that I'll see it right. From podcasts on, yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah.
And my nothing then.
Okay, so I used to do that. Thank you so much. Yeah, yes, it's been coming.
And they wanna give me my card, it's not my old card, but it's okay, it's my name on it, so that's good enough.
That's awesome.
All right, this was really, really great, I'm excited that you finally get a chance to get.
I know, we would love to have
Yes,
you.
yes, thank you, yes, this is a great
Yeah.
space, and I'm happy to Kate versus virtual.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah, I can't,
Really beautiful food, but.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, and I canceled my client appointment, but it was worth it, I was like, is it really worth it?
You're so sweet.
But it was all worth it, so thank you, ladies, you did a great job.
Thank you.
Now, where are you?
I'm with Parsons, I'm right here in Manhattan, I'll give you my card, yeah. And you're a.
Schwab.
Schwab,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll take your card, you have your.
You know what? I don't, but right here. I have not even.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
you're on here. Okay.
It's easy, Liz.Manabee at Schwab.com.
I have you.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
Thank you, thank.
I want to keep
Branding session.
It's about you.
Leslie?
And these.
Actually, yes, yeah, I have.
They're all about the.
What was that? Schwab Impact? I'm not, but because, long story, but I have a
I have a lot going on my head right now. I've got a sick child right now, so.
All right, I know.
Yes, not like cold sick,
Yeah.
but like critically, so.
Are you saying, well, whatever. Like, I.
It's also like, that's
We've got 6 doctors. Okay. Yeah, yeah, and we're moving up to Boston Children's Hospital, so we'll be in a new place, so, yeah.
Do you know like who Nathan said?
No, I.
Yeah, cause like, they're so scared. Yeah.
Was.
Yeah.
But very heavily. So you need to be extra, whatever.
Yeah, I may reach out just in the sense that, the wait list up there is long.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well then, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no change in that, and we talked about that, so.
Yeah, so I'm gonna find out this week how long our wait list is, but Liz, I may take you up and I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been quite a journey, so, yeah, so I've been very, I go to conferences, like I was at a conference in, I spoke on behalf of Savvy Ladies. I literally got there at 2 a.m., spoke, read my back, literally was on the ground, I don't know, like maybe 8 hours. So that's what I do, is like I get my speaking in, but this is not a year where like so I'll speak for Savvy Ladies, but other than that, I'm not.
Yeah.
Other people are thinking, but I'm not excited about what I was.
Oh, you can ask.
Well, we've got so many different opportunities. Well,
Yeah.
I think there's so many ways.
Or,
Yeah, I mean, even at the Charles Schwab conference, Savvy Ladies could have a booth, right? And just like get out there.
or good, yeah.
Right, and have like all about volunteering, opportunities, and so yeah, there's a lot. Where is it this year? Cause Stanford. Oh, Denver.
Yeah.
Okay.
San Francisco last year.
I was there when you had in Philadelphia. Yeah, which is nice. So that would be good.
Like,
Really good.
but I'm trying to think too, so like, our office is right across the street that way.
I like subscribe.
So the station managers that are in that office.
Yeah, that's another opportunity, right?
That's another, I mean, yeah. About like meeting up. Can you call me on that?
Yeah.
When you're ready and go,
Thank you.
then,
So,
let's grab lunch.
I would love that.
I know.
Amazing. Well, if it's not in Judy's, they shouldn't be the city all the time. So it's
Through the city, she's just.
place the thing. So we're here. Guys, let me write myself a note.
Yeah.
That way we'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen, yeah.
When is the conference? Like, when?
It is like early November.
Okay, so I've got some time, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But are you talking about impact?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's great, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
But at the same time, I feel like
And it was nice meeting you.
6 months from now.
I'm gonna turn this.
Your core skills are.
Today was very nice. We did it.
You and the coordinate, like just the owning it. We were talking about getting together.
Oh, good.
You want me to collect the swag? I don't want you to collect the swag.
Oh, and you don't have to, you can put it all in one bag. Figure out.
I even talked to one and
If you want to take extra, bring back to the office.
It's so great to meet you.
Fabulous.
Find out.
Oh, so you can help. Let's you.
Borrow.
Yes, we should.
And grab Suzanne. If we can.
Yes, we talk, because there's getting them. I mean, I think it was like, I really.
We don't-
or 5 ways.
Go
right?
work on something.
We have.
Yeah,
Right, so
yes,
we should-
clean lectures.
For all your video.
Like
primary earners.
So we just have to probably make sure compliance, that it's okay to push it, put it out there.
It's okay to put it out there. I mean, we do it all the time for other things. That's great.
Because, yeah, we can give you the sheet that everyone has, and we have. So we have all liability.
Or about this.
Oh.
So we have